I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 25th meeting of the Burlington Conservation Commission. First item of business is to do a roll call. Okay, so we'll say Kent Moffett, marked absent. All right, we have Rob Sheehan. He's not here yet.
Not yet.
Okay, the record would show he's not here at this time. Okay, Ed LaTurco.
Here.
Okay, Sarah. Oh, whoops. Was there an echo? Okay, Sarah.
It's Bill.
An echo.
Trying to get in.
Yes, here.
You trying to mess me up?
I'm muted now.
Okay. All right. Do it over. Sarah Walensky.
Here.
Okay. Who else we got? Indra Deb.
Here.
Bill Boyven.
Here.
And the chair, Larry Cohen, is present for the record. Okay, that's 5 for now. All right. The next item on our agenda is a public comment period. It's reserved for things not on the agenda. So if there's something, if you're here and you have something in your mind that's not on the agenda, please come right up. And all you have to do is, of course, is state your name and your address, and you got a couple of minutes' time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Bob Young. I live at 3 Valley Circle. And this is the first time I've ever come to this commission. And it's not really for a good reason. I'm dismayed by some things that I've seen in town. And I just want to back up for a second. Earth Day was Monday. So maybe it's appropriate I'm here. I happen to live near the high school. And my wife and I walk quite a bit. And actually, over 2 years ago, I started seeing this, and maybe I thought someone would take care of it, but it's not. What I'm specifically talking about is the Iona Ganley Conservation Wetland. There's a sign over there, Iona, I-O-N-A, Ganley.
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
All right.
Yep.
You had a look on your face like you
No, I didn't hear it correctly.
Oh, it's my fault. And I started noticing a lot of trash. Trash, Dunkin' cups, bottles, beer cans, and to top it off, a tire right in the wetland. So I don't know who's responsible, but I would say if I was this person or their family, I would be upset that her name is there, and we should be upset as townspeople. It's not right. And so what I'm asking is that whoever's responsible, that they get it cleaned up and then set a plan so it won't happen again. Now, another problem in the area is Old Concord Road off of Blanchard. Goes in behind H Mart. There's wetlands there. As you start to take the turn the other day, I saw an office furniture, a chair, in the weeds there. I was shocked. It was hard to miss because it was black and red. So I did go by there another couple of days later and it was gone, but there's still issues there. And speaking of Blanchard Road, the water that kind of abuts it as you get closer to Middlesex Turnpike, is that something that you have sort of ownership over or concern about? Because there's lots of trash down Blanchard Road. Right on where the town would probably own the side of the road where a sidewalk may be. So that may not be good for that water in that particular place. So I came here as a concerned citizen, and, I don't know if anybody was aware of this before I mentioned it, but, and these are the only ones that I've seen because they're on my way to and from certain things. I haven't gone to any of the other wetlands in town. They could be pristine, I don't know. So if anybody wants to give me some feedback, that would be great, but
Well,
our general comment.
Okay, let's leave it there. Let's ask the commissioners if they have any comments to
Okay,
what you're saying.
great.
Because I have some comments.
Sure.
All right. Ed, anything that you'd like to say? Normally, we don't go around, but I think this is a timely topic that you bring up. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Ed,
We've witnessed it a lot. I live off Muller, in the 18 units in
Where was that
Reserve
again?
Way.
I didn't hear, where'd you live?
Muller Street off Blanchard and Wheeler.
Okay, thank you.
We ended up with just a lot of trash, but historically, there's been cars actually thrown there. I mean, it's always been a problem. We residents just took over. So we canvassed that every single week. We got the same thing going on coming around South Bedford Street. As you come down to the lights, a lot of trash in that corner. And the residents now are saying they're going to take over that and start cleaning it out. I mean, to put it up on the town, if it's near school or something like that, I can probably understand it, but it's so common to go on all the time.
Okay.
We're succeeding. Everybody's kind of getting a good feeling for, take a trash bag out and pick up some things that we can pick up. So
Okay.
that's one way, but there are some places still that could use some help. There's no residents.
all right, let's just
So-
take about a minute each because we have a large agenda. Sarah?
I want to echo what you're saying. I see trash in Vinebrook. I walk along Vinebrook a lot, and it's absolutely full of cups and nasty things. I don't know what the funding structure is for paying for cleanup. I mean, whether it's a need for community organization of cleanup days, or whether there is money that we're not using properly, but I agree, it is a shame to see stuff in that condition.
All right. Bill, anything?
Some places, you know, we can ask the property owners to do the cleaning. If that's on H Mart property, we would address it with the property owner and ask them to police their own area. And sometimes they'll police things down on even their property, but are right next door, because it makes them look bad, too. So that's one possible aspect, and if that's appropriate, we'll find out and we'll address it with them. The high school, I would think the town should be cleaning that up. I mean, that's town property. So, you know, we could make I assume we can make a report of this to the DPW, and hopefully they go clean it up.
Thank you.
Indra?
Yeah, thank you for bringing up this concern, and we are also concerned about this. And as Bill said, that this is the town property, so town should take care of it. So let's see what we can do
Okay.
for the town.
Rob?
Yeah, I think it would be good to know if there's certain areas that are issued or have issues with like trash, or especially with dumping, or sort of, you know, if it's, you know, just littering. I mean, I've seen auto parts, CRT monitors, there's in the woods, sort of off Cambridge Street. I think if it's sort of brought to our attention, like I'm sort of familiar with my area of Cambridge Street, and there's a lot of trash that I think it gets wind tunneled from Billerica, and just things get thrown out of the windows. But if there's something that's a particular issue, especially if it's the town's property, if it's conservation land or town-owned property, I think it's the right thing to bring it to the town commissions, and we can see if we can get it cleaned up.
It's, Bob, it's interesting that you bring this up, because I was thinking exactly the same thing, that issue that you brought up, not these areas, but other areas. When I go around town, I find it rather irritating that these natural areas have gotten to look in such a degraded condition. And whenever there's a property owner, we ask them to clean up, and maybe we need to be more diligent at doing this. However, this is the type of issue that is often along roadways and things like that, is usually some public service organization does it. And they organize it, and then they get the DPW to have their truck and stuff handy, and they pick up the bags as the people are doing it. So I think this is the kind of thing where needs to be in two steps. One, we need to identify all the areas and start making a list. I mean, just doing it sort of like, I saw this and I saw this is not a good way of doing it. That's the first thing. Then the second thing is, we can talk to the administration and see what ideas they have about how to get it done. Obviously, if there's a property owner, we just simply send them a letter and ask them to clean up.
Right.
For H Mart, we have done this, okay? For over behind 33 Cambridge Street, behind Total Wine there.
Okay.
We have done that multiple times, for example, okay? We have Bed Bath & Beyond used to be, we asked them multiple times. And to a greater or lesser extent, they do sometimes comply, but it's not consistent. And when they come in here, we ask them to do this on a regular basis, and of course, they say they will. And do you think they often do it on a regular basis? The answer is probably no. So I think the first thing to do is we should, if we really want to be serious about making our environment, our town look better, we simply have to sort of make a list of those areas that are problematic and then see where we are from there. And, if you want to feed that information to the office, they'll compile a list, and we'll have sort of a master list, and then we can go talk to our town administrator and see what he says about what they think they can do, what organizations may be helpful.
If I might, just very quickly, I think also what's happening, and as crazy as it is, on Blanchard Road, there's signs that say no littering. But I can guarantee if you go down there, there's so much litter. There is it's the broken window, kind of a theory. I know that's on crime, but same thing. Never should happen anyway, but there's a lot of people that are just not doing the right thing. And I think if it's not taken care of, it becomes even a bigger problem. And it's ugly down there on Blanchard Road. I'm
Well,
telling you.
obviously, it just shows that it makes you think that people don't care.
Well, the problem is we have to care, and if we clean it up and stay ahead of it, maybe they'll stop. And
Yep.
one other quick one, I was at the selectmen meeting the other night to talk about trash, and I think we've got a systemic problem in this town, and they really need to start paying attention. And I gave them a specific, and that was South Bedford Street where it intersects Cambridge. On both sides of the road, littered with all kinds of junk, and that's an entry and exit to this town. Doesn't show well. And as you come from Cambridge Street and around the bend, there's so many, I'll call them trash trees. They're not worth anything, but they're ugly, and you have a beautiful stone-type wall there that you can't even see. So,
Well, let's just say this, Bob. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, number one. It's a type of thing like you notice it, but then you don't do anything about it, okay, until someone walks in and says, this place is looking pretty trashy, okay? And then we'll try to make some progress on it.
well, I hope so. I'll stay in touch with you, and
Yep.
I think that's the key, too.
All right.
You need to identify the list, and whoever is responsible, whether it's DPW for certain areas, start cleaning them up.
Yep.
And if the other areas need help, now, I would just make a point on safety. If it's going to try to get volunteers, like Blanchard Road, I wouldn't want my family there
Right.
at all, or over on South Bedford Street. It's not safe.
Right, we're very conscious of that.
All right.
Yeah, no, I understand.
All right.
But let's see what we can do, and
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking your time to come in and say this.
Welcome. Well, this is, as I said, I was at the selectmen's meeting the other night, so they know.
Did you get a good reception from them?
I think they listened, and they had a big night planned too, and nothing was really said. But there's a thing that the police say, if they have an interaction with you, they say, "You've been advised." So that's what I did. I advised them, it's on tape, and no one can say they didn't know. And, and it was just said with that I'm a concerned citizen, and the town needs to do something now.
Great.
And then have a plan for the future.
All right, Bob,
Okay.
thank you, and have a good evening.
You too, because I want to put BB together, beautiful Burlington. And
Yeah.
right now, it's shaky.
Sketchy Burlington.
All right,
Thank you, everybody.
I wish
Yeah.
everyone thought like you did.
Yeah.
all right. Excellent points. All right, is there anyone else online or in the audience that would like to make a comment about some issue not on the agenda? We don't often get people to public comment period, so this is novel for us.
Glad to be that person.
You are. All right, so next on the agenda, we have the approval of minutes for our March 28th. They have been issued as draft form. Is there any major discussion needed? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 28th?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? 500. Next, the minutes of April...
600.
600. The record should show that during that discussion, Rob Sheehan is now present. Okay. Next, the minutes of April 11, 2024. Any discussion needed? Okay, could I have a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
I abstained because I wasn't there.
501. It's approved. Okay. All right. Next, we're down to item 4A. Notices given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will be calling for a public meeting, during which time we have a request for determination of applicability filed by the Town of Burlington DPW for a proposed water line installation within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands. It's located at 171 Middlesex Turnpike, which is the treatment plant, the water treatment plant on Middlesex Turnpike. And we will thereafter, after hearing the information, issue a determination of applicability. The application is being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And you can get a copy of the application by writing by email, conservation@burlington.org. There is someone from the town here?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Tim Mazzoni, and I'm an engineer for Town of Burlington Engineering Division.
All right, good to see you, Tim.
Good to see you. I'm in charge of designing and overseeing construction projects for the town. And one of the projects this year, we'd like to install a 6-inch water main to the water treatment plant. It is no longer in service. This 6-inch water main will take the place of a 24-inch water main that's in place right now. It is oversized for what the use is. It's no longer in use. And the only use for that building right now is to staff water treatment plant personnel. So we'd like to abandon that 24-inch and install a smaller 6-inch water main to take its place. This construction will take place in the driveway going into the plant.
That's about it.
About it.
Okay. All right, John or Eileen, any comments for us?
No, so there's wetlands on either side of the driveway as you enter from Middlesex Turnpike, but the construction is proposed in the road. It will cross a culvert. I don't know, it's going beneath the culvert, I presume?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
It depends where the culvert is.
Yeah. So anyway, but it's all totally within pavement from the road all the way up to the building.
Do you have any concerns for it?
No.
All right, anybody on the right have any more comments on it? About anybody on the left?
No.
It seems like this is very straightforward. Okay. All right, so we have a draft decision, and it's a negative determination, conditional determination, which means if it's voted on, it's approved with a few conditions, and then you'd be on your way. Eileen or John, do you want to summarize, please?
Yeah, I'm just sharing it. Do you want me to read it out, or is that easier?
I think I can do it as soon as this opens. Okay, so the project is installation of the water main. Construction will be limited to inside the existing bituminous driveway entrance and actually part of the parking lot. So the work is within bordering land subject to flooding and the 100-foot buffer zone to BVW, bordering vegetated wetlands. Obviously, there's no change in grade, so there's no impact to the floodplain. Conditions, first condition is no work beyond what's the project description and the request for determination. The second condition is regarding erosion controls. So we are requiring erosion controls on either side of the road. The third condition is a standard condition about material. The excavated material, whether, if it's not used for backfill, it has to be removed from the site since it is in the floodplain. No stockpiling of soil or other materials, no tracking of sediments, no filling or changing of grade. If there's any dewatering required, they will need to dewater to the location which is shown on the plan to a dewatering bag or a hay bale corral. Then standard conditions about the commission's right to access to do inspections and non-compliance condition.
All right, any changes from the commission?
No.
No. My question is about soil. John, they're going to have to temporarily stock soil to backfill. So do we have to say don't stockpile that backfill soil anywhere close to the wetlands?
Well, we could either say it has to be put in a truck, or if it's on the pavement inside the hay bales, I think it's fine as long as they sweep it up. I mean, I think because the pipe is so much smaller than what's coming out of there, they're probably going to have to bring in soil to actually fill the,
Well, the pipe itself that's in there is not coming out.
well, that's
It's
true. That's
going
true.
to be abandoned in place.
Yeah, that's true.
So you're essentially digging a trench for a 6-inch pipe?
That's right, which is
Oh,
a
okay.
smaller trench.
All right, I had this vision of digging out a 24-inch pipe
No,
that's
no,
this
I
big.
should've
and
made that-
There's soil everywhere.
I should have made that more clear.
All right, okay.
Being
I'm
abandoned.
good. Okay, good, thanks. All right, so if there's nothing further, could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the project at 171 Middlesex Turnpike under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Looks like 600.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with the project.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming in. Okay, next we have another request for determination. The commission's calling a public meeting to act upon a request for determination filed by Brixmore Burlington Square LLC for the proposed construction of landscaping and pedestrian enhancements within the riverfront area at 101 Middlesex Turnpike. That's where the old Tower Records used to be. Okay, and will thereafter issue a determination of applicability. The application's being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw, Article 14. And if you write an email, you can get a copy to conservation@burlington.org. I can get a copy of the application. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Moises Bobadilla. I'm an engineer with Kimley Horn, and I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, Brixmore Burlington Square, and we're seeking a determination of applicability of work within the 200-foot riverfront area. The site is 3 structures, and it's located at 91, 101, and 111 Middlesex Turnpike. It's being redeveloped to backfill the former Payara Salon space with 2 restaurants and other tenants. The site is highly developed, and as part of the redevelopment plan, we're adding sidewalks and patios. There's no impact to the bordering land subject to flooding or bordering vegetated wetlands, either the 20 or the 100-foot wetland buffers or the 100-foot riverfront area. The minor impact to the 200-foot riverfront area is converting the 589 square feet of impervious area into 240 square feet of impervious area and 249 square feet of landscape area. We're also converting some parking stalls into a patio for a restaurant, and as well as 3 existing paver islands into access points with landscaping. In general, there's no adverse impacts to water resources associated with this work, and so we're seeking a negative RDA to progress with the minor engineering changing application with the planning board.
Okay, John or Eileen, any comments, please?
Okay, so this work is in the riverfront of the stream, the Vine Brook
Right.
tributary that runs through the site. So it's in the outer riparian. It's a fairly minor project, and it'll result in a slight decrease in impervious area in the riverfront area. So it's really, I have no concerns about this project as a request for determination. Now, it's also been filed with the planning board as a minor engineering change. And I've talked to staff in the planning department, and they think they're going to hold off and issue a decision on the minor engineering change for this work until the parking lot work gets resolved. The parking lot is the subject of the notice of intent, which is also on the agenda tonight, but has been continued because the parking is so critical to the tenants for that this work is being done for. The work being done under this determination under a minor engineering change with the planning board. So they're going to hold off. They're not probably going to issue a minor engineering change. I don't have any concerns about issuing a negative determination at this point. But if anything changes with the planning board, it would require them to come back and file another request for determination if the plan changes as a result of any planning board changes.
Okay. All right, let's see, on the right, Ed, anything on this?
Oh, nothing to add. I would concur with John on that one.
All right, Sarah, anything, please?
Could you explain how the reduction in impervious happens? I mean, I'm familiar with the site. I know Tower, old PR salon and all those
Sure.
shops along there. What's going to be changing?
So the islands are currently impervious, so we're going to add landscaping to them.
Okay.
So that's when it's going to decrease the
Okay.
imperviousness.
And this does not concern anything regarding the flooded parking lot? That's a
No, that's separate project.
That's all I've got.
Okay, on the left, Rob, anything on this?
No.
Okay, Indra, anything further?
So this one, will this enhancement will impact anything when they come back to with that parking lot elevations, the other one? Nothing.
This shouldn't have any effect on that filing, no.
All right, thank you.
Not as far as the Conservation Commission goes.
Bill, anything?
Yeah, there's one item on the drawing that I don't understand. It says 239 feet of a 15-foot tall screening wall. See the detail by the architect. I couldn't find the detail anywhere, and I don't know what that, is that a concrete wall, or, I mean, what are we talking about there? Bottom of the drawing, those are the squares that are connected by a line.
Down here?
Yep, yep. Right
Not
here.
entirely sure.
Pointing to this line
Yeah.
to squares.
15?
I mean, is that something substantial, or is that just a fence, or what is it?
May I, this is Mark Newman with Brixmore Property Group.
Yes.
How's everybody doing tonight?
Good, how are you doing?
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Kevin Letty is on the phone as well, he's our engineer. A couple of items, first of all, just confirming, that screening wall is, and I'll have Kevin describe it in a little more detail. It is a screening wall that we're putting up along Middlesex Turnpike as part of I would call it a cosmetic enhancement to the property. It's part of our overall renovation of the property to make it look more appealing from Middlesex Turnpike. I'm not sure if you're aware, or I'm sure you are very aware, but along Middlesex Turnpike there, the building has a lot of old HVAC units and other items along the road that are rather, in our opinion, and many of the retailers that we're working with, unattractive. This is basically designed to be a screening element. It's already been granted a variance by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and it's going to have some signage attached to it as well. And it's obviously subject to the review of the planning board. That's pretty much the short description.
What is it? What is it made out of?
Yeah, is this a wall or is it
a cyclone fence with the green webbing? Kevin, do you have any of the detail on the material that it's made from?
I couldn't find an architect detail that this is described here anyway.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin sounds like he might be.
To pull it up. This is Kevin Letty with Kimley Horn, one of the civil engineers with the applicant. The screen wall is located approximately 2 feet off the property line. We have gone before the Zoning Board of Appeals and received a variance to place it there. The screen wall is a mixture of living vegetation, sort of a mesh screen with some shiplap wood. I'm trying to pull up the detail of it on my end to share with the board. So if it would give me.
Yeah, I think I have a fairly recent rendering I can possibly share.
Yes, please. We have no concept, yeah.
Yeah, Eileen, when you put up your window, it seems very small. Can you enlarge the window when it goes up for?
I can't enlarge the window. I've tried to zoom in because it's just
It's a window inside of a
feature.
window.
It's a feature of the big screen there. I'll zoom in as much as I can, but I've stopped sharing so that they can share.
No, I understand. I didn't want to forget to ask.
Yeah, I'll just tell me to make it bigger whenever you
I mean,
want.
make it bigger.
Bear with me.
I'm going to try to find something a little bit better, okay? Hold on one second.
Picture of it here, Larry. So I just had, no, he just took it away.
Yes.
Gotta be quick.
Apparently.
No, I'm gonna find a better version.
Well, it's well outside the 100-foot buffer zone
It
for the
is.
riverfront area, so I am not sure how we have to spend a lot of time on.
I was
Okay.
curious how substantial a construction it was.
Oh, I understand the reason.
Digging and all that.
Yeah, oh, I definitely understand the reason for the question.
No, I just, as soon as he shows us what it is, we may be satisfied.
This is sort of an earlier version, and I want to find one with more detail, but I feel like you would like to see this quickly. Hold on one second.
I would think a natural vegetative screen would be very nice. Some type of.
Do you see this?
What are we looking at?
Yeah, that looks like a thing.
This is essentially what the screen
Nice.
wall would look like. This is an earlier rendering. I think it's even nicer looking since this. We've improved the color. It doesn't have as many signs as
Any board will like
you
that.
see here.
Why wouldn't you plant arborvitaes? They
Grow
grow
15 to 20 feet, and it would
it
screen all that stuff, and, oh, I guess you want the signage up top.
We also wanted to
Protect a sidewalk that we're creating that provides access to the new restaurant that we're proposing for this space, to the where they would have their dumpsters, and it's really also to substitute out the signage that's on the building right now for, it's really just swapping out the signage along the building for this signage feature on here. It's going to be very sharp looking.
And the sidewalk is inside this fence.
Yes.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, well, we need to move along.
Thank you for answering that question. If there's nothing further, I have one question. You have a patio that you're creating, is that true?
Correct.
Is there any reason why that could not be made out of pervious pavers of sorts? It's not a high-use area.
We can look into converting the material into porous pavers. Our initial concern with that is due to the high groundwater table in the area of the vicinity, and hence the other project with the flood mitigation. We wouldn't want to commit to porous pavers and then have to backtrack that work should it be determined to be unfeasible with the actual conditions there. Hence
So
the
why don't we
reason
just leave it that we're at, or you have agreed to evaluate it? How's that?
Yes, agree.
Okay. All right, if there's nothing
Further, we have
further.
a draft decision.
So just logistically, I'd like to just ask the applicant, do you want a negative determination of applicability this evening, or did you want to wait and see how you make out with the planning board? Because
No,
you
we
would. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I think it's kind of a chicken and egg. I think they were waiting to get clearance from you that everything was okay.
So they're actually waiting on the notice of intent for the parking lot, not so much for this.
Yeah, we're fine moving forward with this.
Okay.
I don't understand that.
Well, you should see it over here. Here's a picture of it.
No, he showed a picture, he took
He
it
showed
down
the
now.
picture, yeah. Okay, so are we moving ahead with this? Okay,
So,
please.
So the RDA was for removing impervious area and replacing with pavers, doing some landscaping. The work is in the outer 100 feet of the riverfront area. There's also BLSF, but the work was not within the bordering land subject to flooding. There's a slight decrease of impervious area proposed, about 250 square feet. The decision is a negative determination of applicability for the work outlined in the RDA. Condition 2 is a standard condition about hay bales and sediment barriers. Condition 3 is a standard condition about excavated soils and how they need to be disposed of legally. 4 is a condition about stockpiling and covering stockpiles. 5 is a standard condition about no tracking sediments onto public roadways. Condition 6 is a prohibition on any filling or grading, changing of grade. Condition 7 is a prohibition on any tree cutting associated with this permit. And then the standard conditions about emissions right to access the site, non-compliance, and that's it. Oh, wait. I guess that's not it.
What?
There are more conditions.
There seems to be duplicate things here.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
Huh. That's weird.
Yeah, but they're sorry, they're just duplicates.
They are, right?
Yeah,
Are the conditions 1 through 10?
1 through 10, yes.
Okay, so that's what we're voting on, right?
Yes. 11 through 20 are the same conditions.
All right, so we can,
I'm not sure how that happened.
is that how you show emphasis?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, so could I have a motion to issue a negative conditional determination for the project located at 101 Middlesex Turnpike under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 in the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? That's 600. You're all set, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, son, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Yep. Okay. All right, next is item 5 on the agenda. Notice is given that we're holding a public hearing, during which time we'll take information related to a notice of intent filed by Tyler Lewis for the proposed construction of a residential porch addition at 54 Francis Wyman Road. The proposed work would be within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetland, and it's also in a riverfront area of a locally regulated stream, being heard under the State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14. The commission will be viewing information relative to the application and may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington Wetlands permit for this project. And there is a link on the conservation webpage which gives you all the information about this application and project. Good evening.
Good evening. Stephen Dresser, Dresser Williamson Way, representing Tyler Lewis. Mr. Lewis is here. Mr. Lewis is rebuilding a house that was damaged by fire and has applied to construct a farmer's porch on the front of the house. There is a local bylaw river on Appendix A, as well as a bordering vegetative wetland on the easterly side of the property. The porch will be 34 feet from the bordering vegetative wetland as shown on the plan and 40 feet from the bank. We were given the supplement for the order of conditions. We understand that the wetlands line has been deemed incorrect, and will agree to the conditions as written there, including the plantings and the limit of construction prior to the redelineation. Look forward to hearing from staff on that matter and how we'll go about that.
Well, let's see what they say about it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right, good. Thank you for that summary, sir. John or Eileen, comments on this one?
Well, I'll just start this time. As usual, Steve gave a nice little summary. So this is a property, just to give you guys a little bit of history, it's a property that somebody looked to subdivide some time ago, but because of the wetlands on the property, that was proving tricky. As far as I understand it, Mr. Lewis purchased it, and there was a fire, as Steve said, So they were allowed to rebuild within the same footprint. It didn't actually go through us for a permit at that time because it was going to be in exactly the same footprint. But when it became apparent that they wanted to add a little bit to the footprint, that being porch, we told them that they needed to do an application. Given the small scope of the build, we said it could be an RDA, even though it's actually quite close to the river. So the wetlands have been delineated out there a couple of times. We all went out and saw it 2 weeks ago. There's wetland flags and stream flags, and I think that we're not in full agreement as to the extent of the wetland flagging. I think we also have a couple of questions just about the stockpiling in the way back, just about what plans there might be for those piles of soil. And we also understand that there was some disturbance pretty close to the wetland that was unfortunate, but isn't really a matter that isn't really a matter under this particular request for determination of applicability. So I don't have an issue with the porch going where it is. I think we just have the question about the stockpiling, and we do have issues with the delineation. Did you want to add something?
Yes, so it's an NOI, not an RDA.
Sorry, it is an NOI.
And it does require a waiver because it's in the 40-foot no-build. But so when the project was, maybe it was the previous owner was looking to subdivide, I did walk the site with another wetland consultant, I won't name any names, but we determined that the wetland extended well into the lot, and that's what basically squashed the potential subdivision of this lot. Quite a bit of their lawn area is hydric soils, and they're currently driving through it. It's kind of torn up. And that's definitely a wetland area that they're sort of driving through.
Okay.
That's about it.
All right, so what essentially we have is a relatively small proposed project, but there are issues on the site.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, and so we didn't mention this. So the newspaper screwed up. This should have been on the last agenda. The newspaper ad never ran. We sent them the ad and they didn't run it. So typically we extend hearings for 2 nights just to try to accommodate the applicant, because it's not his fault that the newspaper missed the ad, and we're actually opening the hearing beyond the 21-day period that we're supposed to statutorily open it in. I'd recommend that the commission try to wrap this up and issue an order in one night.
Tonight.
Right.
Okay, so Ed, you want to say anything further on this one?
Just to follow what we all did see, in that it's clearly into wetland area, is there an intent to put any kind of a drive to get behind everything there? Because there isn't any other way to get back there. I mean, what is the reason with stockpiling that is back there? How do you get to it if we're showing that it's wetland that be ripped up every time?
So no, there's no intent to put anything on that side of the house. As far as the stockpiling goes, we didn't stockpile any of that dirt.
It looks like it's been there a while.
So we don't have any plans for that. We also didn't plan to get rid of it in any way. Certainly open to comments on that, but no, there are no plans currently for anything on that side of the house.
Okay. Sarah?
I don't have anything to add.
All right. Rob, anything?
No.
Okay, Indra, please?
Nothing.
Nope. Okay, Bill?
I don't see any issue in issuing a variance for the small inclusion into what is now defined as the 40-foot no-build. And to echo what Ed said, it seems to me like there's going to be a strong motivation to have access to your barn out the back and stuff like that. And I don't know how you're going to do it. If that is truly wetland and a 20-foot do not disturb attached to it, it really closes that off completely. So I don't know if you have any comments on what your intentions are about the barn and the shed that's back there, and how you might deal, or even getting back there to mow the lawn.
I mean, here's the situation. I see the same thing, Bill.
Yeah.
Every time you drive back there, you're driving through things that are legitimately characterized of a wetland, even though it doesn't look that way, because of the nature of the soils, which is how it is defined. So I'm mindful of the fact that this is a very small project, and that mandating an expensive restoration and moving of the wetlands someplace else, but I'm wondering if we can get some kind of commitment from you to, or you have any ideas on how to do something different, even if it's over a little longer term, to try to deal with the fact that you have an area that's wetlands. In order to, if you want to continue driving back there, you're going to dig it up unless you put in some fill. You're going to have to put in some fill. Then you're filling wetlands, and it's a problem. So,
Just so they were replacing a gas line. That's the driving out there is from the gas company went out there against, he had warned them, asked them to, be extremely careful, and they just drove out there, and then they had
and
to
it
bring
also
in-
says in the plan the gas company's going to restore the ruts and stuff.
And then we assumed that something was going to come up and that they would do that with the ruts and all that. They were willing to do that.
But
So
you
they
see-
needed several tow trucks to even pull out the vehicle that was in there, and that's.
So, Mr.
So he's
Dr-
not continually driving.
No, I understand. So, Mr. Dresser, here's the issue. He has no access,
I understand the issue.
okay? And if you leave it that way, theoretically, he does not have access with a vehicle to his backyard.
Yeah.
Even theoretically, to move the, he's respecting the wetlands, to respect the panels. A better solution, but it would be more expensive, which is not great either, it is to fill it so it doesn't keep making the ruts, and move the wetland to something further back.
Do you intend on driving out there, though?
So, I'm sorry, I think I was confused by what you were speaking about. So I am not driving like a car, a vehicle or a truck through that area. So that's all, I drive my lawnmower over there. That's about the heaviest thing that goes back there. It's not like that barn is in use in any meaningful way. As far as future use of that back, there isn't, or in our plans, there were no plans to continue to.
But if you wanted to move those piles, you'd need some heavier machinery, number one. Number two, and if under normal circumstances, with any kind of an appreciable project attached to it, would say you should restore the wetland there. I'm mindful of the fact that we could get a little bit expensive here. But I wonder if there's something you can propose that you will do, or work with the department to kind of do something in this regard.
Certainly open to working with the department to do something. As far as what I have currently planned, I'm just a homeowner. This is my first house. I never planned to get into any of this, so I don't have anything to offer you right now.
I realize that. That's why I'm sort of treading around in a circle here.
But I'm more than willing to work with the department if they have any suggestions for what you're looking for.
I just keep in mind that typical residential application with a wetland abutting it like that, we would physically, or, at least with some kind of plants or something, demarcate the 20-foot no disturb, maybe even a fence to keep people from driving through with lawnmowers. And yet here, it's your only access to mow the backyard.
Right.
You can't mow that area because it's a wetland. That should be allowed to grow back. What about, just thinking off the top of my head, I didn't get a good look at the garage there. You put a door on the back of the garage so you could drive through something, or is that not even feasible?
So there's I think it's an 8 or 10-foot retaining wall back there. The garage is on the ground level and it's elevated up. Yeah.
That would be a problem, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I think John, what really needs to happen on something like this, ideally, is you prepare an area in the back that would compensate for that area that he wants to go through, and put a wetland seedling mix back there, and try to create a wetland or something back there? No?
The project is an 8x15 farmer's porch. I mean, I think he's bought a house, the area's been treated as lawn for probably decades. He's not doing a major project. I would not recommend making him fill wetlands and replicate as part of a farmer's porch project.
Because the project's too de minimis.
Yeah, it's a very small project.
Do you have a problem with him driving his lawnmower over it after it's been leveled out again?
It's been mowed historically. I mean, he's not just driving over it, he's mowing it. I mean, that's grass, and it has been grass for a long time. I mean, I just think the scale of the project, I mean, if it were a brand-new house, yeah, you generally get people to give back some of the 20-foot no disturb when somebody's doing a tear down or something, but it's a small project.
I hear you.
And if we had been involved in this from the beginning, well, he had to build it on the same
It was in the same footprint.
That's right. If this was a total new construction, we would have asked some kind of a design that would allow access to the back of it. Okay. Yeah, you're stuck with just the porch. Okay.
All right. That's John's recommendation. Is everyone okay with that?
Work with them when you're doing your plantings.
Okay. Sarah? All right. So it looks like we've come to an agreement to move on.
He'll work with staff when he has to do his plantings and all that, and, in a place that, when he drives his mower further from, I don't think he'd probably mind losing some of, the lawn that's really wetland. He probably shouldn't be, he can let that go if it's moving 6 or 7 feet.
Is there gas line easement there, though?
There's not, I think it would, no, it's not a main, right?
No, but there's the sewer main in the back that runs through the property.
There's a sewer main that runs in the back.
And that has an easement, yeah.
It's not a very wide area, too, we're talking about.
I just think if it's, if we're moving the wetland 6 or 7 feet up there, and if he stops mowing there, I don't think he'd have a problem there. Then it's really just a buffer zone that he's driving through. Not ideal, but again, on such a small.
So he actually only needs a certain number of feet to get by with a lawnmower anyway.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah. Yeah,
But that's
he'd really be driving in the buffer zone and not
All
in
right,
the wetland.
okay, I get it. Okay, so we have, this is a hearing. Is there anybody who has a comment on this? This is 54 Francis Wyman Road. I do not hear any neighbors or anything. So we have draft decisions. I guess either Eileen or John would. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll do that after they review.
Okay, it does look very tiny over there on that screen. So,
What's that?
I said it does look pretty tiny. I don't know why it is.
It does look very tiny.
Yeah, it's filling my screen. So a notice of intent was filed for construction of a porch within the riverfront area of a regulatory stream. The house had been rebuilt in the same footprint following a fire. We went through the filing history and the plans of reference. The closest point of the proposed porch would be approximately 34 feet from the BBW and approximately 40 feet from the stream bank, as shown on the approved plan. We're suggesting that the Commission finds that the bank and bordering vegetated wetland delineation is not accurate and that the wetland extends several feet into the existing lawn. This project is exempt from the stormwater standards, being a single-family home. The closest part of the house was approximately 48 feet from the stream, but 40 feet from the, and the closest part of the porch was to be approximately 40 feet from the stream, but largely on existing impervious cover. We're suggesting that they enhance the riverfront area by planting some trees in the inner riverfront. We're also suggesting that the Commission waives the requirement for an alternatives analysis, both since the stream is jurisdictional and there isn't really anywhere else a porch can go. All right, let me switch over to the, oh, sorry, I forgot to actually read out what the bond was going to be. We're suggesting a bond of $2,500. Thank you.
We can talk about it.
Yep. Okay, let me reshare the order. Okay, again, so we're the same reference plans, and a lot of these, a lot of the conditions are standard, and I know Steve has seen these about 50 times, so I'll just jump through a few of them. We're saying that it's permitting work within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands and within jurisdictional riverfront area only, and no other work will be allowed. The Commission does not agree with the delineation of the wetlands on this parcel. Jumping down, the pre-construction conditions are also standard. They're describing how, sorry, I've gone down to number 29. They're describing how you have to install erosion controls and have a pre-construction meeting with staff before the project begins. You need to record the order and the bylaw decision with the Registry of Deeds and put up a DEP sign. And then going down again, we're saying that no filling or grading beyond what's shown in the approved plan should be allowed. Pollution control conditions are all absolutely standard. No debris or clippings or anything can be dumped into the wetlands or the stream. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides should not be used within 100 feet of the wetlands or stream, and that will be a perpetual condition. This riverfront area enhancement condition is highlighted because it's just a proposal that they shall plant 3 native trees on site as improvement, and we can discuss if the tree is appropriate. Species and locations shall be determined in consultation with staff. No machinery to be used in the wetland or close to the stream bank, and the trees should be monitored for 2 full growing seasons and replaced if they fail to thrive. And then just a description on how you go about getting your certificate of occupancy and certificate of compliance.
Okay, could I have a motion to waive the requirement for an alternatives analysis since the stream is jurisdictional only under the bylaw and there's no other feasible location for a front porch except as a front porch? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Could I have a motion to issue a waiver of the 40-foot no-build zone for the little corner of the front porch that is located in the just into the 40-foot no-build zone? Is there because it is a de minimis intrusion, is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Could I have a motion to close the hearing for DEP file number 122-701? Is there a motion?
Moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. Could I have a motion to issue the findings that were just reviewed under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-701?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. Could I have a motion to issue the order of conditions that were just talked about under Burlington Bylaw Article 14? And is it under the state? No, is it under the State Wetlands Protection Act too?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's in the buffer zone. In the State Wetlands Protection Act for DEP file number 122-701. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. We'll get a motion on the floor for the bond. There is a bond suggested amount of $2,500 performance guarantee under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-701. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second?
I have a comment. I think that's,
Well, let's second it first.
okay.
Okay, second. Okay, discussion.
That seems excessive for just a small front porch, $2,500. I think it should be more like $1,000.
Okay, did the motion say 2,500?
Yes.
Then could I have a motion to amend the motion from 2,500 to $1,000?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, now the main motion is, we have a motion on the floor to require a performance guarantee of $1,000 requested under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-701.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right. All set? All in favor? 600. Good luck with your front porch.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Very small. Very small.
Okay. All right, we're on Okay, item number 6, we have a public hearing. A notice is given that will hold a public hearing for a notice of intent filed by Trina Murphy of 155 Middlesex LLC for the proposed site work associated with construction of a vertical addition located at 155 Middlesex Turnpike. The proposed work is within a 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands under the State Wetlands Protection Act in Burlington Bylaw Article 14, and the Commission will be reviewing information relative to the application, and we may issue an order of conditions, and we may issue a Burlington Wetlands permit. The application material is visible at a link on the Conservation Commission web page. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Rich Kirby from LEC Environmental Consultants, and with me tonight is the project engineer, Brian Goudreau from Hancock Associates, and representing the applicant, Trina Murphy from 155 Middlesex LLC. So we filed this notice of intent for work associated with the vertical expansion of an existing 2-story commercial structure located at 155 Middlesex. It's in the southwest portion of town, just down the street from the plaza that you were talking about earlier. And as I indicated, the site has a 2-story commercial structure now. It's surrounded by pavement, and you can see the existing conditions up there on the plan. North is plan view left, so we have some bordering vegetated wetlands that border on an off-site perennial stream. And LEC delineated those resource areas. We did not have access to enter that property to the north where the resource areas actually occur. So we evaluated the vegetation as we could from the property boundary, more or less, and hung some flags and took some offsets to where the wetland boundary probably is off-site. We also used a drone to evaluate the maximum lateral extent of flooding to determine the high water mark per the Burlington bylaw. We drew that estimated lateral extent of flooding on an aerial image, which is included as Appendix A in the Notice of Intent application, gave that information to the project surveyor who overlaid it onto the plan, and then transcribed the 200-foot riverfront area associated with that line, which occurs just along that northern property boundary. Proposed work includes straightening some of the pavement edges, particularly along the left-hand side or to the north. The pavement isn't quite straight right now. They're going to mill and overlay the existing parking lot. They'll be adding a dumpster pad to the northeast corner, which is the top left corner of the pavement. They'll be replacing some existing walkways with pervious paver walkways and adding sumps to the catch basins to improve stormwater management. Adding hoods to the catch basins to improve stormwater management. The sumps are pretty good size out there now. And we're also proposing a 6,090 square foot buffer zone restoration area for the land between the parking lot and the wetlands. So right now, that's all lawn. There's a patio in the top left northeast corner of the site. That patio is going to be removed. It'll be replaced, that entire area, with roughly, what do I have it here somewhere? A number of native trees, 12, and 47 shrubs. The lawn will be removed. We have a native pollinator mixed in there. So it'll be a pretty dramatic improvement over existing conditions in terms of wetlands function and value. I understand the commission went to the site. They had the opportunity to visit the site the other night, last night I think it was. And I think that's it. We'd be happy to go over any details. There's some photographs that we included in the notice of intent application. I'm sure Eileen probably has some queued up as well. But happy to turn it back over to the commission with any questions they may have.
All right, good. Thank you for that presentation. All right, so John or Eileen, do you want to give us a rundown, please?
So as far as the resource area delineation goes, it seems fine. As Mr. Kirby said, the resource areas are off-site. They're not really accessible on private property and with an out-of-state owner, so it's pretty difficult to get in there. But the estimation of the the BVW, just just off the property line, pretty much. Seems right, seems fine. So my concerns are mostly about the stormwater on the site. I have asked for some information on a few things. For number one, there's a big discrepancy on the FEMA floodplain maps and the elevations that are shown on this site plan. FEMA maps show quite a bit of some of the parking lot, and certainly a lot of that grassed area is 100-year floodplain, but the topo on the site plan doesn't match up. So just need some clarification on that, maybe some information from the land surveyor on what they used for a benchmark, and just verify that those elevations are actually correct. I mean, I don't think it would impact the project much, but it would definitely, I'd like to get that straightened out. When we did the site visit yesterday, we realized that the detention basin in the front is not just a detention basin for the site, but in fact, it's a detention basin that takes considerable amount of stormwater from Middlesex Turnpike. And there's actually a storm scepter just up gradient of the basin. So it turns out the town has a drainage easement. The town is responsible for maintaining this basin. It does take parking lot runoff as well, but it takes street runoff. But when we looked at it, it seemed problematic. The smallest orifice for the outlet control structure is at the same elevation as the basin. And if you look at the plan, it actually looks like the town engineer sent us the design plans, and it looks like the lowest orifice is actually below the basin elevation. So all the runoff from the parking lot is just being short-circuited. It's just going into the basin and immediately out. It's not being detained at all. There's just there's a channel that goes right from the outlet from the parking lot right into the control structure. At the other end of the basin is the big, probably, I don't know, maybe we did measure maybe an 18-inch concrete pipe, or maybe even 24, that takes the stormwater from Middlesex Turnpike. That seems to flow through that site. And it wasn't really too badly channelized through there, but it seems like it's possible that there's a lot of sediment buildup in there in that basin. It just seemed like it was kind of high. So I definitely want to have it investigated between the applicant's engineer and our town engineer, whether or not that basin is functioning as designed. And even if it is functioning as designed, maybe we should revisit the design and see if that lowest orifice is actually needed, because there's no evidence that the water ever gets up to the second orifice. So there's two orifices on the side, then there's on the top, there's the emergency overflow. But there's no staining on that concrete at all that indicates that it even gets up to that second orifice. So obviously, we're not getting detention in that basin at all. It's just flowing in there and flowing out. So you're not getting, number one, any peak rate runoff mitigation or any really water quality treatment, because it's just not staying in there.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's list the issues, and then we'll talk about what to do about them, perhaps a little bit. Ed, anything, other issues or comments you have?
Oh, I concur with John on that, what the town is responsible for, I mean, because you can see that one pipe. I agree, based on all the soot and whatnot that's inside that box is plugging up the other 6-inch pipe that's going out on the other side. So there's an issue there, and you got the ground level that's almost burying the entry into that on the lower one, which you can't see. I think that's, looking at what the amount of work that's going to be done, that should definitely be part of the whole program.
Okay. Sarah?
I would just add on to that. I know one of your goals is to have a nice front entrance to this building. Like right now, it's not as attractive as you want it to be, and I just wondered how that's going to work with this stormwater lagoon in front. It's kind of not clear on how that's going to.
So the existing depth of the entrance, so you remember the covered opening, but it was still exposed to the elements. It will now be interior space.
Wow, okay.
So essentially, it's what exists now, just a little bit wider.
Okay.
And so, with the reduction in the impervious surface area, we were able to still remain net positive in the design, but it's not encroaching anymore on this.
So people will still approach from the parking lot along that walkway and then go in there?
Correct.
Okay. Rob, anything further on this?
Well, I just think wetlands-wise, the extra plantings and that, I've seen that patio there before, and it looks a little curious over there. But yeah, I think it's nice to have the extra planting in that sort of lawn space.
Sure. All right, Indra? No, you're all set on this one. Bill?
I agree 100% with Rob that planting along that side and your plans for restoring it is a drastic improvement to what's there now. So kudos. The building itself, the construction is all within the existing footprint, so I don't think there's too much that can affect, except for, of course, construction materials and stockpiling, and make sure the erosion controls will be appropriate to protect the wetlands. And the drainage swale there, or pit out front, I think a possible solution, as mentioned, is just to raise the exit hole to allow some more water to accumulate there. So I agree with that point as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add talk about a couple of things. One is, do we know the depth of the sumps in the catch basins?
We do. So we, for the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates, Trina went out, or her staff went out and measured down. There's a lot of sediment in there. That's going to be cleaned out Monday. But they were able to get a tape measure in there, and they have 4-foot sumps.
They are 4 foot.
They are 4 foot. It's about 7 feet.
They will be when they're cleaned out.
Correct, correct. It's about 7 feet from the rim
Right now
down
they're
to
2
the bottom
feet.
of the structure. Yep.
Give us 3 days.
All right, okay, that's good news. I'll check that off, all right. What I was thinking is, this detention basin, let's look at 2 things about it. One is where the street comes into it, there seems to be some scouring coming in. There seems to be digging into the area there. That may be because the sediment has built up and the water's rushing into it, but it may also be because you need some stone at the end or something to kind of break the flow. I don't know. And that location's in a good position because at least it has to travel a ways before it reaches an acceptable outlet at the other end. So that one's good. The one where it comes in, where the inlet and the outlet are right next to each other, ideally, it would be better if it was some type of, like, something that created a longer flow path, like some kind of a longitudinal island partially down the middle, so the stuff has to go around and come around. The water comes around and then goes out. I don't know if that's practical, if this is wide enough for that. But it just seems like right now you're discharging the water from the parking lot right next to the exit, and in a heavy rain, the basin might be filled up partially, and so then essentially the water from the parking lot doesn't have a chance to settle out with sand and stuff, and then it just goes right in the outlet. So is there a way to create even a partial flow path at all? Maybe you could just take a look at it?
So that is something that we could look at. I don't think that we'd be creating kind of a berm interior to the basin because, as has already been mentioned, a good chunk of Middlesex goes into that basin, so we don't want to decrease the volume that's associated with it. It's just not that big. What we could look at is kind of a riprap plunge pool at the parking lot side. So basically, water would hit that. It would attenuate to some degree, but more velocity reduction, which would help with solids settling out.
Well, I guess I'm asking to please take a look at it, because I can see it's doing some short circuiting there. And it might be not,
We'll certainly do that.
yeah, that might not be too expensive to do something about it.
And we'll
Understood.
work with Tom Hayes as well, because all the equipment that's there belongs to the town.
Okay, so,
I have one other question
Yeah,
that just
go
came to
ahead.
mind. Rooftop runoff, how is it handled now, and what will be done in the future with the new
So rooftop is downspouts that discharge into the basin, and they're going to be maintained, yeah. So the downspouts that are there will be reconstructed when the building
Does it
roof is
go
tall.
directly to the basin, or does it go in the parking lot and then flow into?
No, it goes directly into the basin.
It does, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Great.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so is there anyone in the audience for this? This is a public hearing for 155 Middlesex Turnpike. Nope. Okay, so I guess we're planning to close an issue at the next meeting? Is that the plan?
Assuming we get the,
We don't have a DEP number yet, do we?
Yeah, no, we do. Well,
Yeah, it's 0703.
yeah, I mean, if we get the stormwater basin stuff resolved.
We might be able to close an issue.
Yeah.
And we need a planting plan too, right? Do we see one already?
We included a planting plan in the application.
Okay, I just didn't get a chance to get that far in. Okay, good.
Has all the plant specifications and instructions and everything else.
So what I have on the list here before you go, I have, John mentioned a discrepancy in the 100-year floodplain. He needed some clarification. So
That's in process.
Okay, so that's in process. I know the specific suggestion might be to move that very small orifice at the bottom of the basin, the outlet orifice, possibly plug it up and use the next orifice up.
That seems to be the simplest solution to me, but I'm not an engineer, so.
We'll have that conversation with the town engineer, because the second part of that was the scour around the storm scepter.
Right.
And the town owning that structure, we'll kind of talk it through.
That would be great, thank you. That's the second thing. And the other question is, does sediment need to be cleaned out of the basin? You have to do some kind of evaluation to decide if there is sediment buildup that needs to be just cleaned out. And rip up all that nice grass.
The town gets to do it. But yes.
All right. Are we all set?
I think
Okay,
so. What's the
so
next
would you,
hearing date?
would you want to continue to the next meeting?
Yes, please.
All right, could I have a motion to continue the proposed project 155 Middlesex Turnpike hearing to our next meeting on May 9th? Second? All in favor?
Thank you all.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
All right, good to see you. Okay, notice is given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will be holding a public hearing to take information related to a notice of intent filed by Rakesh Goel for the proposed construction of a single-family residence located at 12 Sarah Street. The proposed work would be within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetative wetlands pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, which is the Wetlands Protection Act, and Bylaw Article 14. The commission will be reviewing all information relative to the application and may issue an order of conditions and a Burlington Wetlands permit for the project. The application material may be viewed on the Conservation Commission website at the appropriate link for 12 Sarah Street. All right.
Hi.
Hi there.
Good evening. My name's Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental Services, here on behalf of the applicant, Rakesh Goel. Also here with me tonight is the design engineer, Dan Dragani, and he's here remotely.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay. So first off, I'd like to apologize to the commission because there was a disconnect at the last hearing. Nobody showed up for the RDA that was in front of the commission. So I'd like to apologize for that. This project has been somewhat of a perfect storm, as they say. But we're here tonight to try and fix it and to get it back into compliance with the commission. The wetland flags have been adjusted since the original RDA flagging that was done. That was my error. I missed the down gradient wetland. I didn't check the soils in that area. But since then, the additional flags have been added. John and Eileen reviewed the flags, and I believe we're in agreement with the wetland flagging as it stands right now. We filed a notice of intent for the construction of the single-family dwelling patio, rooftop infiltration, in-ground swimming pool, pervious patio fence, retaining walls, buffer zone, and wetland restoration. In addition to this, what we'd like to do is also construct a porch at the rear of the dwelling. The original proposal had showed the pool and the pervious patio closer to the northerly property line. We'd like to relocate that to the southerly property line.
Like to do what?
We'd like to relocate that to the southerly side of the dwelling.
You can go up there and point if you want also, you know.
Okay. So right where Eileen's pointing it. In addition to the restoration that we're proposing, I spoke to my client, and we're going to be proposing additional trees and shrubs, both within the wetland and the no disturb area. The number that we came up with is 40. So it'll be...
How many?
40, Mr. Chairman. So there'll be a mixture of native trees and shrubs to restore these areas. I obviously need to update the plan to have Eileen and John review the shrub plantings and the tree plantings that we would like to do. And I can open it up to the commission with any questions or concerns.
All right, so I'd like to make sure we're all on the same page here. I just want to give a little bit of history so everybody knows that the commission is up to date on where all this has been. In October, the trees in back of 12 Sarah came down. Okay, that's my understanding. And Mr. Hickey, who lives at 10 Sarah, alerted the office. After the site visit, the staff determined that 8 large trees were cut at the rear of the site. It was requested that the property owner submit a request for determination for restoration of that buffer zone. Norse Environmental was retained to establish a wetlands line. It was agreed that the wetlands line would be estimated originally based on extrapolating the information from 14 Sarah Street. Because this wetland line indicated that the proposed house was outside the buffer zone, conservation staff agreed that the site with the house and the pool would be subject to an administrative stormwater permit. That's what we did. The stormwater permit stipulated that there'd be no stockpiling within 20 feet of the street. The permit also stipulated no stockpiling was permitted at the rear of the house. The conservation staff did work with the professional engineer to ensure the stormwater management was well-designed, and the rooftop water is being managed, my understanding is, to a 100-year storm. The request for determination that was requested in October took 5 months to get that submitted. After the site, the request for determination for the restoration, the backyard was noted to be very wet. The removal of trees probably contributes to the ground appearing wetter in late winter. The ground was partly covered at the time in carpet, and staff then felt that the wetland line established was incorrect. So the Conservation Department asked for the owner to ask Norse Environmental, who did the original line, to come back out, and you guys did a more formal delineation. The results of that revised wetland line indicates that the wetland line was substantially closer to the house. The information indicated that the house was currently in the buffer zone and that some of the trees were removed were actually in wetlands. At the March 28th meeting of the commission, a public meeting was held for a request for determination for the restoration of the back area that we had asked to be filed. The commission then issued a positive determination and said this project, given the revised wetland line and the resource area so close, needed a notice of intent for a full permit. So it's why we're here today. And so the Conservation Commission issued a stop work order to cease all activities at the site until after a permit from this process has been issued. So that brings everybody up to date on why things happened the way they did. Okay, so now that you've given a summary, we should ask, I think what we should do is what we do with fairly complex projects, we list the issues, and then we'll decide, we'll get some responses back eventually on the process. All right, so with all that, John or Eileen, would one of you like to start a conversation and what concerns you may have?
Well, I will begin because I'm the one who was sort of initially dealing with Rakesh and with Mr. Giuliani, and then with Maureen and with the neighbors initially, although I think everybody has been by now. So I just wanted to share a few pictures just to kind of add to what Larry said. These were the first ones we took when we went out and we saw that there had been cutting. There is a note from DEP in their portal just saying that there are structures that are visible on the aerial. That's these structures here. There were I think three sheds in the area. Were they gone when you first went out there some months ago?
I believe they were gone.
I think they were because they're not here in this picture. So DEP was concerned that these sheds weren't here, but they were definitely gone before the trees came down, as far as I know. Just giving you the history. After one of the previous meetings, when you were concerned about the big stockpile, Mr. Gwell did take down the big stockpile, but he essentially spread some of it around the back of the site. So the elevation back there is still higher than is shown on the plans. So either he'll have to change the plans to show if he wants to change some sort of elevation, or preferably, in my opinion, just remove all that soil out of the buffer zone and go only with what is shown on the plan.
So the first issue, Eileen, is the current elevation of the back area? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Right. So he has also now put erosion control at the base of that pile so that hopefully there won't be any movement from that pile. And let's see, the pile at the front is now entirely gone. He did use some of the piles that were there to backfill the foundation. Everybody has been to the site at this point, and we're all fairly familiar, even through pictures, I think, with what it looks like and with what has occurred. So unless you have particular questions for me, I think Larry has made it all clear with his history, and then Maureen has made it clear that they are very willing to do a much more extensive restoration in the buffer and the wetland, which I think is...
All right, let's see where the commissioners are at, and let's just list things as we go. Ed?
I'm very concerned about the elevation itself, because it leads me to ask questions which I was trying to analyze with this whole drainage area on the right, that there's going to be a wall supposedly on the right side of the drainage, the stone that's there, and the top of the wall ultimately is going to be 6 inches level to the actual landscaping that is expected. And I'm just wondering how much water is really going to be going towards the neighbor based on the elevations that are there. I mean, that just keeps going on in my mind. This is just too much hill back there that says nothing but water's going to the right.
You're talking off to the side, you mean, Ed?
Yes.
Should I explain the stormwater, actually?
What's that?
Should I explain the stormwater management a bit better?
Well, maybe they should explain it. Maybe they should explain it.
Well, the engineers.
The engineers also want.
Or the engineers should explain it.
Yes.
That would be a good thing.
Probably would be better to explain that now.
Why don't we take a moment and ask you, sir, if you will, explain the stormwater management on the house first.
Of course, my name is Dan Briani from Briani Engineering Group. Would you like me to share my screen here to go through the plan?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Okay, great. So I'll take the site from sort of front to back. So looking at the site from the existing street, the existing home was at a lower elevation. What we're trying to do with the proposed dwelling is bring it up so that basement floor level wasn't below the estimated seasonal high groundwater table. In doing so, it introduced some additional grading to the plan to be able to accomplish that goal. Part of the complexities of doing that involve plan left here, installing a wall in order to retain the soil to be able to accomplish that goal of getting the basement floor elevation above the estimated seasonal high groundwater table. We didn't want to be in a situation where this home has some pump that's running excessively for years to come here. So we've made an aggressive approach there. In addition, the stormwater management system is designed so that the base of stone is 2 feet above the estimated seasonal high groundwater table to ensure that that will work correctly and it will be in accordance with the standards. So I can go through sort of the layout of that wall and sort of mark it here in red just so it helps for display. So essentially it's a stepped retaining wall that goes right in this location here, make the line a bit bolder just so you can see. And essentially it raises that side, or retains approximately 2.5 feet of soil. That may vary when they're in the field, it may be slightly more, you'd be looking at 3 feet, just depending on how things work out. The town of Burlington had a request to install a overflow for the drainage system, so we have shown that and reflected that on the proposed plan. I'll throw that in a different color just to help with display here. I know there's a lot going on in this plan. So essentially we proposed that overflow. Previously, the overflow pipe and the actual outlet of the pipe went beyond 40-foot no-build zone. We've since pulled that back based on the revised delineation of the bordering vegetative wetland. In addition to that, so I guess I'll stop there. What we essentially did at that point is we ran a stormwater model, and the system was sized correctly to be able to mitigate the pre and post stormwater runoff for the 100-year storm. We since, after that, got additional comments from the town of Burlington, which we were happy to incorporate. We incorporated an additional stormwater chamber in addition to a French drain along the whole segment of that wall to be able to collect.
Which wall are we talking about now?
There's this wall here that's in red, sure.
Okay.
I can highlight it here, if that's helpful.
It's hard to see because the cursor, as we're looking at it, is extremely small.
Okay, this.
Okay.
Okay, so I mean, if there's a way to increase the cursor, we would be able to see what you're pointing at.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, to be honest. Are you able to see the red line on the plan?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so that is the limits of the wall. Does that help at all, or?
Oh, I would suggest moving the cursor slowly so we can follow you. We're about 25 feet away from the screen.
Sure, I could try and zoom in here as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Of course. Yeah, of course, absolutely. And so we received comments from the town of Burlington to incorporate some additional, more robust stormwater management standards just due to some concerns in the local neighborhood. So what we did then is we incorporated a French drain along that side. I'll also show that on the screen, proposed in a different color here, showed in orange. So essentially what that does is picks up any additional stormwater that may make it past the system that's designed to pick up the roof leaders on that side of the home, just for some additional protection. As far as what you see on the site today, you see a French drain there that was just installed for construction. So that's not the permanent condition there. And we're certainly open to either, once we get to that point, whether we remove that or whatever the commission feels is the best play there. And then as far as the pool, originally we proposed that on plan left here, right about where you see this porch. That's since been moved to the other side of the home as a result of the revised delineation to be able to make sure that pool stays out of the 40-foot no build zone. And the applicant was also willing to install a pervious paver system around that pool to essentially additionally supply a more robust stormwater system that may be more amenable to the commission. So I think it's really a case where my client is just a little confused with the stormwater regulations, and they're willing to work with us. They also first approached us, Maureen and myself, with additional plantings above 40 plantings. But the concern that Maureen and I had was that they may not thrive in that small of an area. And we may have ended in a situation where the plants are competing, which isn't really my specialty, but just wanted to mention that. The only additional wall proposed in this project is around the pool. The reason for that is to elevate those pervious pavers to get above the estimated high seasonal groundwater table, and also to essentially have that pool so that it's not buried in the groundwater and we don't have any buoyancy issues there, where that pool over time, as that groundwater is rising or seasonally, has any sort of issue in that regard. So
Okay.
that's about it for the design.
Come back to where I was on the wall itself on the left. Is there in that drainage area something that's carrying the water versus just seeping? Like a pipe?
Correct, yes.
Of that sort?
Yes, sir, yes. There's a series of piping, 6-inch piping that runs right along the side of the home that will pick up the downspouts and dispense those to the stormwater system. So essentially that French drain is just an additional backup, belts and suspenders, I suppose.
So nothing is capable of seeping under the wall into the ground, where people in that area seem to complain about water in basements and things like that?
Yeah, I don't think so. Based on our analysis, we've analyzed the pre versus post runoff. We're matching those numbers pretty close the best we can. So I don't think the condition will be grossly different than what they see today on that side. I think a lot of the homes within the area are built below that estimated seasonal high groundwater. And when I was out there last, I saw a lot of pumping going on. So there is a lot of existing homes that are built a little lower than they should, just based on today's standards.
I just want to adjust something that Ed said to make sure it's clear. Is there also a perforated pipe along the wall?
The perforated pipe is capped on both sides. That's in the French drain. Yes, sir. Yes.
There is.
Inside the wall.
Yeah, that's up gradient.
Okay. It's capped on both ends?
Correct. Yeah. So that essentially acts as additional void space. So the stone is 40% voids, and then that cap pipe provides 100% voids for its 6-inch size.
So the elevations that are there in the backyard right now, you're saying stay about that height?
It looks like, based on the pictures that were shown, there is some grading that is different than the way we've shown it here on the plan. So that also concerns me as well.
Okay, now you just covered the stormwater management. The main roof all goes to the front chambers, is that correct?
The left-hand side of the roof goes to the chambers. The driveway runoff goes to the chambers. And this gutter here, there are a couple of gutters in this vicinity that do not go to the stormwater system.
And where do they
and we
go?
have a note on.
Where do they go?
Sorry, sir. Those just do not discharge to impervious surfaces.
So they're going to lawn?
Correct, yes.
I see. And so is that from the lower roof? Let's be clear about how the rooftop water is being handled. From the lower roof, where is that water from that lower roof over the patio going?
So one side of it here gets picked up and collected to be mitigated in the stormwater system, and the rest runs off the grass. The reason why we do that is that we didn't want to introduce too much water to that stormwater system, because it will essentially overburden it and could reduce the system life. So that's the way that we've designed the site.
I see. Okay. All right, Sarah?
I'm a little confused about the large dirt pile I saw there, the second to last site visit. It looked to me like whatever was not used to backfill after the foundation was poured was just basically flattened like a sandcastle and totally regraded the backyard. Is that going to change, or is that the new reality?
The current plan does not show that, so yes.
It has to get changed.
Unless you agree to yet another plan change, yes.
Okay.
The engineer actually just said that he had concerns.
He's concerned as well.
He's concerned that will be certainly acted
Well, he's
upon.
concerned because that's not what's shown in the plan that he designed.
Yeah, so let's stop right there. That's we're going to get to this. The plan does not show as finished grades, does it?
Yes.
It does? Because when I'm looking at the plan and I don't see.
Well, it does, because all the
sort of darker lines are the, see where, right behind the porch says 125, 123? Those are the proposed, right?
I see a 40-foot no-build line.
He's showing it right there. Those, where it says 124, 123, 122, those are the proposed,
Those are proposed.
right? So the sort of paler lines where it's 122, under, kind of just below that, that's existing. And that is also not changing, basically. Right.
So further down on the drawing,
Yeah,
those lines are going to go back to the original.
that's
What is shown on the plan, and that's what you intend to implement.
Correct, sir. Yeah, I think that
I
would
suspect
be my professional.
I think he just probably flattened out the pile so as not to have a stockpile there, because he was going to remove the stockpile.
So is it correct to say that at the 40-foot no-build zone,
As we're looking at the plan to the left, there's a 121 grade. And so the site is going to be restored to meet that line. Is that correct?
That is what the plan shows, and that is what I think should happen, yes.
Well, is the engineer saying that?
Well, he's the one, yes.
This is his plan, so.
Okay.
and how about the 122 grade? Is that an existing, is that going to be an as-finished grade, the one that's on the existing conditions plan?
So he's showing that the proposed ties into the existing 122.
Okay. All right. I see.
But the only grade changes are going to be
Right around the bridge, from what I see.
Right.
That's what it seems to be saying.
Right around the main body of the house, because it had to be raised a little bit to get it out of the groundwater, which is what our current standards are, which is for the benefit of everybody in this town, that we have those altered standards.
The bylaw we passed last year, so that builders can't build foundations in the water table, install sump pumps, and continuously just discharge water from McMansions. You build them so that you don't need a sump pump.
So you're not putting the house down into the water table and displacing all that water onto neighbors. So that's why the house is raised.
But still, the whole house gets raised. It doesn't mean that the height is capped.
The height is capped.
The height is capped?
They have to, there's definitely they have to balance how high they can go, because it is capped, yeah.
There is, okay.
Yes, they're right at the zoning limitation. It's a 1.25 inches below.
1.25.
It's very, very close, yes. This is a very challenging site just to make sure it would work and also be outside that groundwater table. It's sort of like a sandwich of regulations, so to say.
Okay.
So is regrading somewhat to have the house out of the groundwater, as you say, is that detrimental to neighbors in and of itself, or is that neutral as far as neighbors and water?
I
understand why it benefits this house to be raised up, but does that?
Yes, it does.
Anybody else?
Like John just explained, we don't want people just recirculating groundwater.
Right.
Because it's just, yes, it's to everybody's benefit.
Everybody, all right. Thanks.
We don't want the neighbors being subjected to groundwater being pumped either onto the road or, leaking off the property. So the alternative is to raise it out. Then all they have to deal with is the stormwater.
So we had a number of McMansions go in with sump pumps, and they just ran continuously, and the neighbors were getting all flooded because sump pumps from these giant houses were being discharged all the time.
Right.
It seemed absurd that you'd build a brand new house and put the foundation in the water table, and then pump continuously, and the water just has to go somewhere. So it either, they try and put it in the street, which is illegal, or it goes into the neighbor's yard. So that's why we passed the bylaw change.
Even if the house was perfectly waterproof, if you have a bathtub and you stick a house in it, it's going to raise the water level, and that's going to spill over to the neighbors.
And eventually the best waterproofing on the foundation, if it's sitting in there, eventually you're going to get leaks. So
So you want it up out of the water table to not raise it and put it into the neighbor's yards. So that has been done.
Okay.
All right, so, Sarah, you all set for now?
Done.
All right, Rob?
Yeah, I guess I think I was looking also at the previous, before the alterations, and I can see on the left side, that sort of major area of concern there with the storm tax. And I think it is, yeah, a little, with the French drain and the wall, and then the 4-foot. I guess I'm just sort of concerned too, the from the storm tax, all the water is flowing into the backyard, and then once we get into that.
That's just overflow. Only the
yeah.
overflow is going into the backyard through that, sorry.
Yeah, so, but I think that's the, with, yeah, like, I could see that the, like, it looks like the neighbors, some of the neighbor 8 Sarah, 10 Sarah are around like 120 feet, and then, having the back regraded, and then I guess also the do not disturb area out there for the back corner in the wetland is, it might be sort of, if we have some kind of demarcation line or something for the do not disturb area or something, because it seems like it's awfully close with the pool on either side. It's a little close there. But yeah.
So when we draft conditions, we can certainly put in like some sort of demarcation along the 20-foot no disturb.
Okay. All right, Indra?
Yeah, so where the overflow is going to from storm deck? The overflow, where it is going to?
Dan, can you show on the screen the overflow from the infiltration, the rooftop infiltration? Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So it's right at the base of the wall here.
Oh. So did you do any test pit?
We did, yes. I could show those. They're on the existing conditions plan. So we did a test pit in the rear of the home and one in front. And essentially, we've shown that estimated seasonal high groundwater table elevation.
And ironically, they exactly matched after we came back to the office and ran the numbers based on the existing condition survey. So the estimated seasonal high
what that
ground
elevation was? What is that elevation?
Sure, it's 121.1.
That's the estimated seasonally high groundwater.
That's correct.
121. And what is the elevation of the bottom of the storm deck?
Bottom of storm tech is at 123.9.
Okay. Is that estimated groundwater elevation the same in front for the front test pit as the rear test pit?
Yes, they were slightly different, the measurements, because the ground surface was at a different higher elevation. But when we compared them to the existing conditions elevations, the elevation of the estimated high seasonal groundwater was the exact same. So we were 28 inches down in the front lawn and 23 down in the rear yard. So it is very close to the existing surface.
So you're saying that in the spring rains, when the water level goes up, it only goes up 1 foot from the wetlands line where the wetlands are wet?
We found groundwater, actual groundwater, in the front test pit at 64 inches below grade, and then the estimated seasonal high ground at 28 inches. It may be that groundwater table may go lower than that. I'm not sure. It's just from the data observation. I can certainly look up that data. I believe it was last fall.
No, what I'm commenting on is that estimated seasonally high groundwater level.
You're saying only rises during the wet season from a wetlands line at 120 up to 121. Is that what you're saying? It showed.
No. So the elevation, I can do some quick math here, minus 121.1. In the front, hold on 1 second, minus 120. 115 plus. It's a 6-foot swing in the front.
I don't know what that means. I'm trying to get an understanding of what your data showed.
So the existing
On the elevation.
groundwater, so when we do a test pit, what we observe is, we'll observe.
But the seasonal high is up there.
Yeah.
It says the seasonal high at 121.1. What they observed when they were there was down here, like 5 feet below that.
I see.
So it can actually rise up 5 feet, but this is the peak, supposedly is 121.
Okay, got it. That's the peak.
Yes, that's the high water, the seasonally high water, right? But other times of the year, it's down here somewhere, like when they went, it was.
Down here, what?
Down.
5 feet down to 1. So 121 minus 5 feet, that makes it 116.
Something like that, or maybe 118.
So the groundwater level's at 116, but the wetlands, where we see wetlands and water standing, there is at 120. I'm trying to figure out if this makes sense. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just.
No problem, sir. Yeah, no, absolutely. So the existing wetland line that's flagged is at 120. And so
the elevation's at 120, and that's where there's standing water.
Correct.
And you're saying that the groundwater elevation, when you dug, was at 116? Or, I mean, I'm not.
No, so he's saying the estimated seasonal high groundwater is at 121.
Right.
The wetlands are around 120.
And that's where we saw.
There was no standing water at the wetland line.
I thought I saw standing water in the backyard.
No. No.
I didn't see water. Okay. So is
at the time of observation, there was no standing water in the rear yard.
I could have sworn I saw standing water.
It may have just been a different date.
The flag, maybe further back.
Maybe
further back. Maybe
back.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe it was further back. Okay. All right.
I mean, so that would be consistent. I mean, the wetlands are pretty close to, the estimated seasonal high water is a little higher than the wetland elevation, but for it to be a wetland, the water has to be up at that level for quite a while in the growing season. So it can be up there seasonally before the growing season even starts.
And it recedes.
Right.
Okay, so
that seems consistent to me.
That does make sense to me.
Yeah.
So it would be like the difference of 2 feet, it would be, always there would be more than 2 feet, right? Bottom of the storm tank and the high groundwater.
Right.
Preferably.
Yeah.
I mean, it is treating clean water for the most, well, it's taking some driveway too. Yeah.
All right, Bill, you want to make comments? Do you have any?
I'm still a little concerned about the storm drain that going down the left side of the property inside the wall. So there's 2 pipes going through there. One is the overflow from the storm tank, and the other one is what?
It's a French drain.
It's just a French drain. So the French drain is capped at both ends, but the storm track one discharges at the far end?
Yes, correct. Yes.
And that discharge point is basically right at the 20-foot no disturb line from what I'm looking at. Is that correct?
Just beyond the 40-foot. That's a little hard to see. I know there's a lot going on this plan.
Just beyond it, yeah.
Yeah, between the 40 and the 20 somewhere.
Right there.
And that discharge point is sort of right next to the neighbor's property. Could that be extended further down so it actually goes into the wetlands? Is that allowed to go into the no disturb to put in an outlet pipe like that?
You could put in the no disturb. I wouldn't take it all the way to the wetlands.
Right, but you could
also angle it more towards the center of the lot, away from the lot line.
Yeah.
I think that would make sense.
Joint and
To move that discharge point away from the neighbor's property. In times when there is an overflow. And that, the overall sense that I have on this picture is, this is a much bigger house than was there before, I assume, the original house that was torn down. So, you've got a bigger impervious area of a roof. Only half of that's being infiltrated, so the other half of that is going onto the yard. And then the pool is another basic impervious block. So you've got additional groundwater going onto the yard that wasn't doing that before. and all the trees are gone, which removes suction, from the groundwater. So this is, you're adding water to it, and you're trying to control it, understand what these drainage pipes and infiltration and stuff. But trees are going to be a major important part of this in order to try to eventually restore some of that natural stormwater handling that trees provide. And it's not going to happen overnight.
Okay, you all set?
That's it, yeah.
Maureen is now proposing 40 between trees and shrubs.
Yeah, no, I agree that's as many as you can fit in,
More
basically.
substantial.
Right, and it'll be between the wetland and the no disturb,
Right.
and certainly we'll beef this up, and all of them will be native.
That's good.
So let me ask you, in terms of, let's look at it as the amount of water in the back there. There is going to be 1,646 more square feet of impervious surface on the site, net. And so there's more water from that than would otherwise be on the site. How was the site handled prior to this? What was the water doing at the time in the previous existing plan?
I think it was just running off, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead.
I don't think
I
there
think
was
there
any
was any stormwater features with the existing home.
It was an older home, so I don't believe it had any rooftop infiltration. It just had your typical driveway. Granted, the rear of the property was wooded, as we saw from the aerials, but there wasn't any stormwater treatment for the impervious area that was existing.
So generally speaking, the way I look at it is there eventually, the low area of the site is near the wetlands. There's 1,646 more square feet of impervious surface of water that's going to end up there in some fashion. There's some 8 very large trees that were taken down that can take up hundreds of gallons, over a short period of time. So that pool in back is going to get bigger. And so what I'm struggling to understand is you're putting in these 40 relatively small shrubs.
And trees.
What is that, and trees, what is that going to do in the near term for the larger amount of water in the back there? It's going to take a long time before they really soak up water?
I don't think it's going to take a long time. Can we replicate the 8 large trees that were cut down instantaneously this summer? No, we can't, but I think we're trying to make an effort to plant 40 different species between trees and shrubs that will certainly help the situation that we have going on right now.
And it will get better with time.
And it will get better in time because we'll put the permanent demarcation as suggested earlier. Whatever the commission finds appropriate, we can put that at the no disturb so that it's visibly seen, so that that area will not be encroached upon. And essentially those vegetations, they will eventually thrive in that area if you let it go. Even if you don't plant anything, it would come back.
But for example, a maple tree will take 25 years to reach maturity. The neighbors will probably be long gone by then, right?
Well, I'm not going to propose trees that are 2 feet in height. I mean, my proposal with the trees, I was thinking 4 to 6 feet. And I don't know if the commission finds that caliber, that height tree appropriate, but we're certainly.
That's like a 1-inch caliper?
It's at least a 1-inch caliber.
I mean, I know you can get higher caliper, they're more expensive, as you know.
Everything's expensive. The bigger it is, right?
I mean, you can get a 12-foot maple tree.
You could.
You could, a 2.5-inch caliper, and you can get that for $400, for example.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the cost. I'm not convinced personally that buying a 12-foot tree is better than a 4 to 6 foot tree. You have a 12-foot height tree in a nursery. It's been in a nursery its whole life. It's got water, it's got sunlight, it's growing dynamite. A 4 to 6 foot tree, you put it out there, it hasn't been in the nursery so long. I think it might take better than a 12-foot tree.
Well, I don't know if you're right or not, but I'm very interested in whether you're right about this, because I just bought a 12-foot maple tree. And so it's all been planted, and we're going to see how it goes.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, so I'm hoping,
You're hoping I'm wrong.
I'm hoping you're wrong. That's right.
Okay.
So let me ask you this, is shrubs and trees are your area of expertise, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question in that regard.
Okay.
It's well known that willow trees can grow 3, 4, 5, 6 feet a year. And they can get 65 feet tall and 40 feet. They take up enormous amounts of water. As I'm sure you know all this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And they're very hardy because you can actually plant them in zone 2. And so I'm wondering, I've never had anybody do this, but I'm wondering in a situation where there's so much concern for water, and they grow so fast, would putting a featured golden weeping willow tree, it's called the golden weeping willow. I know it's probably not native, but I'm wondering, does this have any merit? And I notice he's shaking his head.
There are no native weeping willows? I thought there were.
The Salix black willow is native, it's not a weeping willow, but the black native is native, Salix nigra.
I was just thinking, is it worth looking at something a bit unusual from what we normally use, given the added water there and all the concern, is there something available that would work?
I'm more than happy to put willow. That's not a problem. The bumblebees love it. Let's put some willows in. Not a problem. We'll do the native rather than the weeping.
It's a native.
I want to see what they say, though.
Okay.
As long as it's native, that's fine.
So it's native, you're okay with it? Well, could we evaluate that? Because they grow at twice the rate of a maple, and they're known for taking very large amounts of water.
Okay.
And they can't do total shade, but they can do partial shade. Maybe I'll just ask if you could look into it, whether it has any merit.
Sure, not a problem.
I'd just like to make a comment, and we're not going to solve this tonight, but I think there's an inherent flaw in the way stormwater calculations are done in terms of the amount of water that is leaving the property in the post-construction compared to the pre-construction, in that tree cutting is not included in the calculations whatsoever. So all the water that had been going up in trees is not included in the calculations as an additional water, strain on the site. It's just particularly what falls on the ground and what doesn't run off the property. So it's just a flaw that I think in the system. There should be some method of approximating anyways in the calculations the effect of trees that were removed and the impact that it has on the stormwater on the site. And right now, it's not included at all. Now, we're not going to solve that tonight, but it's just a comment that I have. I find that as a weakness in the system.
All right, so let's move on. We got people in the audience that have been listening very patiently. And if you come up, I'll call on you one at a time. You come up to the seat, you identify you say who you are and where you live, and we would like to enter comments into the record, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm John Hickey.
Thank you for waiting all this time.
Okay, it's well worth it. So I'm John Hickey. I met some of you yesterday on my property. I'm a 62-year resident, lifelong resident of 10 Sarah Street, the property right next to 12 that's being developed. So I've been beyond alarmed at the development that's going on at 12 Sarah Street for a number of months now. And how do we pronounce Rashek's last name?
Goal.
Goal? Goal, like hockey goal? Okay. So it's first, I'm going to just make some comments. I might have a few questions. You can tell me what I can or can't say. But so it's every inch of his house, I'm so concerned that he's using every inch of the house size permitted on that lot, and there's no room at all for any margin of error. And you're seeing it. You walk the site, you're hearing the information. Every inch. There was a Garrison house set way back, normal size, two-story Garrison. That house has never had a pump. They never had a water issue. My house has never had a pump, has never had a water issue. Every other house around us does, going down and over to the next street. So what has happened now, Mr. Gold and his engineers have effectively changed the whole complexion of the land next to me, and it's really very potentially detrimental to me and my property, as well as my neighbors behind me and going downstream, for lack of a better word. It is beyond me. I haven't fully figured this out yet, but it's beyond me. And I know there's certain lines of demarcation within 15 feet or whatever. It's beyond me that a house of this size in wetland areas would have been permitted. Conservation Commission, building, whatever department, that this has happened. 12 Sarah Street, I want to clear the record a little bit here. 12 Sarah Street, my neighbors, the Buzzles of 60 years, sold it to Mr. Gold last year. The trees on that property, I know you asked Alan Coleman at the last meeting, Mr. Cohen. There was supposedly some agreement, Mr. Gold said, between the Buzzle family and him, that was part of the sale agreement to take the trees down. First of all, you can't contract with somebody if it's illegal to begin with. That's a null and void contract, so that's a lie. Secondly, I was on my property around October 6th when the tree truck pulled up, and I was very, very concerned, but it was 7 o'clock in the morning and I was leaving for work, because I know Mr. Gold bulldozed the house at 14 Sarah Street, built a new house. That house had a sump pump since day one in 1962. He has a sump pump there now. He knows it's wetlands. He took down all those trees in the violation of the law. I go to work. There are 8 to 10 trees in that backyard. Some of them are big trees. One of the Buzzle family members, who said he'd be happy to testify, as a state forester, and he looked at all those trees. 2 of those trees date back to the Civil War. So when one of you, it might have been Mr. Bovin, is it Bovin?
Boyven.
Boyven, excuse me. One of you said, gee, some of those trees must have been at least 50 or 60 years old. They were 100 to 150 years old. All gone. I get home, I look, I couldn't even believe, unless they were paid overtime, that all those trees could have been removed within less than 1 day. I called Eileen Coleman the next day. She came down, I gave permission to walk my property. He was fined, whatever. The trees are gone. The lands behind my house, some of my neighbors that are sitting here as well, have been flooding since the day I was born and lived in that neighborhood. They are lakes at different times of the year. Since these trees have come down, they're more than lakes in different times. I sent Mr. Cohen pictures. I hope you share them with the committee. Mr. Murphy, who lived on Beaverbrook Road, around, what number is your house, Roland? 8 Beaverbrook Road. He's a contractor. He lived there in the mid-'60s. He brought in machinery, dug out a ditch to bring it down toward the brook, the Ipswich tributary, and it's still full of water today. I wanted you to come out with me yesterday into the woods. You said you had seen the site. What you didn't see is that it's full of water, which it normally isn't this time of year to that degree. There's a tree, 70-foot tree, that's on the edge that came down right toward my house because there's so much water back there. Roots and all, it's all up, lying on its side. Right out of those woods, you saw the woods in my backyard, onto the grass. I'm beyond concerned that I have the only sunken driveway in the whole street. I am 20 feet from the border of the retaining wall. My driveway goes down in a valley. Any water that doesn't get caught by the container in the front yard is going to run off. If it comes around at all, it's going to go right down my driveway and into my house, which I just had a $110,000 renovation. done in those rooms as I head to retirement, living there 62 years. And you, and I'm not saying you personally, but commissions, building, whoever, has allowed this house to be within inches of my property. You've pushed the limits. You're going to put a retaining wall. And so, Mr., I'm sorry, what's your name? I'm sorry, what's your name?
Me?
No.
Oh, you mean?
You.
Ed.
Ed, to your point, a retaining wall that's 2 feet. You saw the slope in that backyard, right? What's going to prevent that from coming right down into my yard? And a French drain going from the side into wetlands. And is there a container in the background? In the backyard? Is there a container going to be in the background? In the backyard, is there going to be a container?
No.
That's going to be runoff, excuse me. That's going to be runoff into wetlands that have been there since the day I was born and before. And to your point, without trees, yeah, let's plant some trees. We'll be long dead before those trees take root and absorb water. Shame on Mr. Gold for doing that at 12 Sarah Street, at 14 Sarah Street. Doesn't care about the neighborhood or his neighbors. You put a no stop work order, and he's out there 2 days later with the crew trying to push it along. 2 days later, it's a public holiday, Patriots Day. He's out there with the framing crew. I have to go out in the street, and all my neighbors could hear me. I've never had to raise my voice in my neighborhood my whole life. We grew up as one big family. And I have to get somebody to cease and desist that doesn't care. He's a lawbreaker. We are surrounded by wetlands. Their houses all have multiple pumps. That water's going to go down, out into the yards even more. It's going to potentially come into my yard. If I understand you right, the pool is now going to be moved to the other side, I believe.
Yes.
Right? There's a mountain of dirt that goes right down, it comes like down like a hill, right toward me, right toward the wetlands. That better be gone. It better be flat like it used to be. A French drain and other piping. Thank you, Mr. Civil Engineer and Mr. Gold. You don't live there. You don't live there. People have been in that neighborhood for 60 years. And it's like, oh, we'll make this work. We think it'll be okay. It probably will. The truth will take 25 years, but this will happen. It should have never been allowed to have a house that size built. And that water, you well know, is going to be going here. And is that property, I want to know, is that property within 40 feet of the no-build zone, legally? Is that foundation with legal limits of the wetlands?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
It's further than 40 feet.
No, it's not.
It's further, right?
It's further.
Yeah, it's further than 40 feet.
Yeah, well, that's good. Wonderful, wonderful.
More like 60, 70, 80 feet.
Wonderful.
Like 80 feet. So that's-
Wonderful, wonderful. So the test pits, I don't know if you have the privy to do it. I don't trust when I have somebody that's lied 6 times. Somebody from the town of the Board of Health, Mr. Boyvan, somebody mentioned somebody from the Board of Health should be out there. That test pit 20 feet from the back of the house is much closer to the wetlands since the markers were moved. Go out and test. Look at the water levels. Mr. Keeley, when I had him out in my backyard with Miss Coleman in the woods looking, they told me the water table's 0. It's 0 now. I can just imagine what it's going to be like now beyond with more water running off out there. I asked them, will you put things in writing that I'm not going to have a flood or water in my house because I've never had it? No, we won't put it in writing.
Right.
Right, of course. French drain's not going to cut it. A retaining wall's not going to cut it. You've got land going 2 to 3 feet sloping. You got a 6-foot slope in the backyard. That water from that roof is not going to all go into those containers and drains. It's going to be in the soil. It's going to run out. There's a drain in front of my house. Anything gets overloaded, it's going to go right down my valley of a driveway into my house. Anything that gets somehow, where that section ends right there, going into the backyard where it says landscape. That's barely outside of my grassy backyard before the woods. It's barely beyond it. And I'd like to see where all that water goes as time goes on. You know what? Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Well, I've been watching this 6 times over. I sent an email to Eileen Coleman and John saying that I insist that I'm going to have assurances that they are going to be out there, whoever else, to monitor, because I do not trust the contractor, Mr. Gold. I want to know before anything's covered up that there are French drains in there, that the containers are properly in there, that everything's done to perfection. A couple weeks ago, when I had to go out there and they were working illegally, digging up and putting in electric, and Eileen was there, I called her out there, and then she's like, well, they're almost done anyways. I'm like, there's a no work order. What does that mean? 6 times breaking the law. And if this commission in town gives this man a pass to continue on variances and, well, we hope, we'll put trees, there's a retaining wall, so on and so forth, I will sue the commission, I will sue the building committee, I will sue everybody I have to sue if I get any floods in my house. Mark my words. You better have respect for people who've been here for more than half a century. Thank you.
Okay. Would someone else like to follow that, please?
First, I'd say that's a hard act to follow, but I know his concerns. My name is Roland Terrio, and I live at 8 Beaverbrook Road, which is basically behind John's house.
Right. I see. Okay, you're on. Okay.
Excuse me?
I see it on the map.
Okay. For the last month, I've noticed more water. I know we had a rainstorm, but my lawn usually takes it, but I've had a lot of surface water in my back, way in the back. I look over to my neighbor's house, who the gentleman just moved in a few months ago, and I see a lake back there. And that's from the runoff of the slope that's coming down through the backyard into his, and I'm sure some of that water is just filtering into my yard. I've been there 48 years, and I've never seen water like this. I do have a pump, and the town hooked it up to the drainage, and I haven't had, and that was about 15 years ago, and haven't had any issues since that time. So I did my duty and hooked it up to the drainage where other people have a hose into their backyard, all right? And I can just see this problem here, the water coming off that slope, off the roof, just going right by the wetlands, because that's not going to take any more, and just spreading out. It's a shame. It really is, because the house, when I looked at it, when they were building or putting the foundation in, they raised the elevation, and I'm saying, whoa, that's pretty high. The foundation is high, so I know there had to be a slope coming right down back into our yards, John's yard, my new neighbor over there, and my yard. So if we can do something about it, I'd like to see it done. French drains don't mean too much to me. I see a pipe, an open pipe that's going to be just discharging the water into that area there. And that water's just going to come straight over into the abutters on Beaverbrook Road, especially mine and my neighbors. So that's about all I'll say.
All right.
But I'd like, someone has to be liable for this. If, I have problems, I have a nice house downstairs, I don't get any water, And if all of a sudden I'm getting water, someone's going to have to, make whole for that, because it's not my problem. But, all right, I thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. All right, who else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name's Rich Costa. I live at 8 Sarah, the other side of John.
Yes.
I'm not abutting the property, but I do get all the water that comes down from the whole hill of Sarah and goes to my property before it goes beyond the next property to my right, 6 Sarah, and then there's a trench that actually pushes the water away from our yards, so when it starts to overflow. I have water in my basement. I have 2 pumps in my basement. I also have a 6-inch drain pipe that was permitted appropriately by Mr. Pandolfo, who's done a lot of work in this town for many years. I went to somebody that knows his stuff and does things appropriately. And that goes into the green water basin out in the street. And that way, if there's more water coming down, and it can go out away from our backyards, away from my neighbors' yards, and not push the problem to somebody else. I understand in hearing the plans that there is a basin in the front of the yard, but all that's doing is collecting water, minimal water probably, because there is a lot of water that comes down the hill of Sarah. Excuse me, I'm saying Sarah, I mean, Sarah, apologize. Comes down, and then it will just flood, overflow, and come in the backyard, and then flood into our neighbors' yards. I'm asking a question as if I don't understand why something couldn't be rerouted to the green water basin, as other properties are doing.
Could I just intervene here? What is the green water system
I'm
you're
sorry,
referring to?
the drains that are right out in the street that collect
So just to clarify, the gentleman from Beaverbrook said the same thing. So that water goes somewhere, it goes into a pipe, and then it discharges in somebody's backyard. So the person who lives at 8 Beaverbrooks, water goes into that system, and I think it probably ends up in the backyard of number 15. It doesn't go to Deer Island or something, it just goes down the street to somebody else's backyard. That's where all the stormwater goes. So if you're putting water into that system, it's going in one of your neighbor's backyards.
No, it's not. It's actually supposed to be cleaned out, those trenches, and go beyond my neighborhood and out to green space where supposedly it drains out away from the homes. It doesn't drain into anyone's backyard. Those are supposed to be cleaned regularly. I haven't seen a truck clean there, and I've been over 29 years.
So the stormwater systems all just discharge into other people's private property. That's where they go.
Well, I never heard of an issue related to it, and I assume that's why you guys grant permits and allow that to happen.
Well, we don't grant them anymore generally.
But my question again is, somehow, if there's water coming on your property, I believe they should manage it and not allow it to go to another piece of property, because people like me at the end of the hill gets everybody's water. So I'm very familiar with people putting water out of their property and coming into mine. But I don't, come here and start harassing anybody that's been up here for years, in their homes. But when you're granting a new permit to somebody and we're not managing that to prevent that water that those 8 large trees were sucking up, and the ground itself was taking care of that water. I'm not sure what it's going to do now. There should be possibly basins in the backyard to hold more water with brick and stone. I'm not sure how they design them, but I'm sure something could be figured out just to prevent it from keep on going into the neighbors' yards. So yeah, I agree with you. We should be putting things in neighbors' yards, but we should be going to the town and asking what's the appropriate way to manage it. And something about dumping water in the back of yards to go into other people's yards, like I'm seeing here, doesn't seem to be a right way of doing things. You raised the front yard. Is the elevation going to be now 124 and it was 121 before, or 122? So there's going to be basically a hill in the front of his yard that's, you could see from 10 Sarah, and you could see from his own other house, 14 Sarah? Is that what I'm understanding here? I'm not sure how that's acceptable to have a hill and then drain or taper off into other people's neighbors next to you. Well, that's probably why they need to build a wall, because they're raising everything up to prevent it, and
See how it works.
and the French drain along the wall is just going to bring all more water to the back to go into the neighbors' yards. So that's kind of questionable as well. There's an overflow pipe that we're talking about here, and we're asking him to move it more towards the middle of his property, but we're not really saying how far. Is that going to go to the center of the property where the trees are going to be planted and can help grow those trees quicker? I'm not sure what the next step is with that. I thought that was a great idea. Thank you for looking out for the neighbors on that, Mr. Bovin.
I think a revised plan should show that detail, so we'll know exactly where it's going. They haven't drawn it yet, but they're going to.
I mean, he's my neighbor. I want neighbors to, get along, but to put water on your property line so it's somebody else's problem, I'm not saying he's doing it intentionally, but that's something that I'm kind of concerned about here. The 40 plants and trees, I mean, it sounds like you're trying to put an effort to put back 100-year-old trees that are 2 to 3 feet in diameter, if that was an estimate that I kind of saw from my window. I understand it's not easy and may not be done quite often to get large trees put into a backyard that could help suck up this water problem. I think it's a great idea with the willow tree that I heard. That's some trees that suck up 3 or 4 times more than others. That'll be helpful. And I'm not proposing he puts back a 3-foot diameter tree, but a 1-inch diameter or even 2-inch diameter tree to take up what was there, 8 huge, large trees. There's got to be a better way. I know, I went on the internet, you could get large trees and it costs a lot of money, but again, he did the same thing on his property, knocked down trees without permits appropriately, got fined, but yet the problem just moves on down the line with water overflow, and he knew he shouldn't have done that, and he purposely did the same thing on this property. That's just not very neighborly and not very decent as a being to just stop breaking laws and not care about it. So I would like the committee to please look into larger diameter trees that do suck up water, like we talked about, more than 1 inch or 2 or 3. I'm not saying 3 foot of a diameter, but there is 40-foot trees out there, 60-foot trees you can buy, and it'll cost a lot of money to plant, but maybe he would have thought, if we did that the first time, when he did it to his own house that he built, then he probably wouldn't have done it this way. So let's not just keep passing on the problem and giving him a pass on that. And that will help us all as well. So I asked about the stormwater system. There isn't anything in the backyard to collect water and to kind of self-drain itself back there, correct?
Right.
I'm glad there's something in the front. Thank you for doing that. But does something make sense to do it? I'm not an engineer for designing landscaping and homes, but can we put something there for him to collect his own water instead of it being pushed out to the
Can't
backyard?
really do that because it wouldn't be effective. The groundwater is too high. For those to be effective, there has to be 2 feet separation from the groundwater so that it can hold the water and drain.
Right.
But if that chamber is sitting in water, it's not going to do any good.
So the only thing that we can rely upon is the trees that are gone? The
Chamber is
roof
in the
base?
front. That's why they put the
Yes.
chamber in the front.
I get that. That's when the roof water goes.
So the roof water will go in there and then it will percolate down and
Yes.
stay on his property.
No,
That's how
it'll-
it's designed.
Excuse me, designed for overflow to come along the wall and to be put in the back.
So when there's a really big storm and it just can't take that, then some overflow only is what's going back there.
But it is designed for the 100-year storm, is it not?
Correct.
Yeah, so they're huge tanks.
Sir, Chair, do you mind if I just have a quick comment?
Please do.
I certainly hear the concerns of the neighbors, and I completely understand, although we have, designed this to meet the 100-year storm, the way that the regulations read it, I think that we would be open to installing an additional stormwater system in the rear of the property. I completely understand the concerns. We could also try to look into shifting that front system or in the center of the front of the home.
Potentially make that a bit more robust as well. I think we have every intention to do what we can here to lessen the concerns of the neighbors, and I certainly are hearing their concerns. So I just wanted to mention that.
That would be a help.
I have a comment. I think that some of the, I heard two people express things they're not happy about.
See the
Obviously,
neighbors' incredible unhappiness about many aspects of this project. The Norse Engineering plant expert expressed a reluctance, shall we say, to sink a lot of money in expensive large trees. Yet I'm also hearing a connection between expensive large trees being maybe the only way available to mitigate this water problem. Could those two be connected? A good faith effort shown by buying some really enormous expensive trees, showing we actually really care about remediating this problem for you guys. At our expense, we're gonna do this thing for you. I see that as a way forward. Like, way more than you wanted to spend as a way of winning back the goodwill of these very, very unhappy people.
I mean, it's something that I'm more than happy to approach my client and have a discussion.
$500 trees, many of them, or more. I don't know how big.
Right, I mean, just keep in mind that if we do get large trees, we're gonna need heavy equipment back there to plant them. I mean, this isn't a job that 2 or
It's a big
4
deal.
men could pick
Oh, yeah.
up the roof. I just wanna like.
I've seen them do it on the
make
college
clear that
campus. It's
If I put a large tree in a wetland, I'm gonna need a large piece of equipment behind that house, digging that hole in the wetland.
True, but it's a one-time thing, and then you
No, I'm
reap
not
the benefits for
disagreeing
many
with you.
decades.
I just want to have like the commission understand that we're gonna need heavy equipment back there, working in your no disturb, working in the wetland to do that.
It's already been disturbed, with all due respect. You also used large equipment to take down the 3 huge, large, 3-foot diameter trees. We're trying to make it better.
I don't
Sometimes you got to step back a step
I
to
don't
make it better,
disagree with
to
you,
try to
sir.
fix it.
I
You-
just
you
want to
can't-
make sure that that's appropriate and the commission would be fine with that method, that's all.
Seems a worthwhile cost, in my view.
So just to be practical for a second, once again, native trees are not easy to find. We don't want non-natives, we don't want cultivars, we don't want invasive species. And finding a nursery that's going to carry a $500 native tree in Massachusetts is probably an impossible task.
It's a tough one, but I mean, we're talking about somebody who did twice now, asked for forgiveness rather than permission. There's a pattern.
Right.
I think this would be a way of undoing that wrong.
It's something
that's a
I'm more than
giant
happy
pain.
to look into. And maybe the chairman can recommend the nursery he got his red maple.
Western Nursery in Chelmsford.
Okay.
It was, I bought an Armstrong maple, that may not be.
It's a cultivar.
It's a cultivar, but.
Okay.
But they do carry up to 2.5-inch
Caliber.
caliber.
Okay.
It's a very narrow site, I had no choice. Sure.
So again, I don't want to lose sight of what I requested and to be looked into. I'm talking a large diameter, more than 1 or 2 inches, but yet not as much as 3 feet. A 1-foot diameter tree, I know they're there, and I know it's costly, but then again, if he had to put this back in place in his first house, he probably wouldn't have done it on the second house, and the neighbors wouldn't have been affected.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's all I have. I
All right,
appreciate it.
Thank you for your comments. All right, anyone else?
I just wanted to mention one thing, Mr. Chairman, and the board. So in order to design that stormwater system for the rear of the home, we may need to push that grading a bit closer to 40-foot build line. I just wanted to mention that just to make sure that would be okay with the commission.
That's so the infiltration doesn't break out?
Correct, exactly, yes.
They can fill to get 2 feet underneath it.
Okay. Well, in that area, you might have to build it up.
Which is one thing we're trying not to do. We're trying to remove the fill that's already there.
I don't know. Do we want to have that done? Even if you're using the real shallow infiltrators?
Correct, sir, yes. We still need to shift the grading a little bit down towards that 40-foot no build line. Based on the pictures, it did look like, and I may be wrong, it's hard to tell, but it looks like the fill might be beyond the 40-foot no build, I'm not sure.
It is.
But any fill that's beyond that line, I think we would definitely remove that.
clearly.
Oh, yeah.
At 60.
Even if it's shallow.
All right, anything else? Are you gonna, yes, go ahead, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Gilberto Seina. I live at 10 Beaver Brook, right behind where the construction is happening.
Yep.
So I don't have much to say. I just moved there recently at the end of December, and when we moved, we saw the amount the water was getting stuck around my backyard was normal, based on what I heard from my neighbors. After the construction started, we noticed an increase of water being stuck behind our backyard. And I don't have much to say, only that we noticed that the water increased being stuck, and that's it. That was right after the construction started. That's all I have to say. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Anyone else want to make a comment on what we've heard?
I have one more question.
Mr. Chairman, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have one more question. Mr. Cohen, if you could help me, Mr. Gold came to me
before the foundation was put in and said he was going to deliver a notice of intent, like he could deliver it himself. I don't know what I think Eileen, was that for a stormwater permit?
That was for the stormwater permit.
Okay. I was just wondering, like, was that something, because it was never delivered, was that something that should have been delivered and there should have been a public hearing even before?
It was an administrative permit, wasn't it, Eileen?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so it just was never delivered?
Yeah, I mean, no,
Yes, he should have, and he didn't.
oh, okay.
Nothing I can say about that.
Yeah.
He
So
said,
he should have got a
He told
copy?
him he was going to, and apparently he didn't.
What should have happened, Eileen?
Oh, just that he was supposed to hand him a piece of paper that said, I'm going to be building a house under a stormwater permit. Oh, well, I'm proposing to build a house under a stormwater permit. Here.
So even on administrative permits, you're supposed to let the neighbors know?
Yeah, so on the most recent changes, you required just immediate abutters to be
Immediate
notified
abutters.
for administrative permits.
Okay, all right, because it used to not be that way, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay.
All right, you are correct.
Yeah, I was just wondering, and lastly, to your point, whatever's done, however this plays out, but French drains, the retaining wall, like make the wall 4 feet high if you need to, because I don't want any runoff anywhere, and the drain needs to go out far enough, although I don't like to say that because it's going toward wetlands. I don't know how you fix it. I just don't want water. Thank you.
All right, so what I heard is that the backyard is going to be, the fill is going to be lowered down to the elevation that we talked about, okay? I heard,
Unless you're proposing to have Mr. Giorgiani design something for the back.
Another infiltration chamber, then you'd have to raise the fill
Right.
to have the 2-foot clearance.
I think you're better off not doing it. What do you think?
I think that the stormwater for the house is pretty well designed. I mean, I would defer to Dan on this because he's the engineer, but, I mean, it's taking a lot of the water from the house and it's taking the 100-year storm, and all that's going to the backyard is overflow.
Did he also say in the front he was going to add a chamber?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that would be, I think, the better thing to do, is to just make that front one bigger, personally.
So
That's my-
essentially, it makes it that the overflow probably won't.
Perhaps even less would have to overflow.
Okay.
And he was talking about shifting it to the center of the property so that whatever infiltration it does do is further
Right.
removed from the neighbor.
Right, so they're going to move that discharge point.
Correct.
They're going to evaluate the plantings for larger plants and the willow tree that was just talked about, if it's of value. I'm not-
Giant willows,
A giant willow tree.
many giant willows.
All right. And, you know, there's certain things we can control. Like, we can control the plantings as a commission. We require that a professional engineer use accepted engineering standards to design the project. We can do that. We always do.
And if it doesn't work, the professional engineer didn't do the job.
That's why
right.
you're not getting a guarantee from us, because we are not the one doing the design. We require the licensed engineer to do it. That's why you got the response that you did. So we can require that a professionally certified engineer who has experience in it is designed, and if it's not right, it's not working, they have to go back and fix it.
Does that include the retaining wall and anything else?
Sure, if something's not working, yes. Yeah, that's why we use professional, these licensed engineers.
That land needs to be lowered down, or that wall needs to come up, to your point, and then...
I'm not overly concerned about the dividing line of the wall. I think what we're really hearing from all of you is the problem is down below here. It's just spreading water to the houses behind.
And the thing is, we can require
Because they have
trees and so forth of a certain caliber and a certain height and things like that, if we can find them to be native trees. But there's certain things we can't control. We can't control the size of the house. That's not determined by us. We have nothing to do with it. We can't determine that the house is elevated 2 feet above seasonally high groundwater. That's another zoning law that we don't have anything to do with.
Mr. Chairman?
And wait a minute, we can't predict, the biggest issue that we can't predict. We know that with the loss of the trees and the additional, the low spot on the yard, that the water that acts like a bowl, like a bathtub at the back of the yard, is going to have more water. We know that. And we can't tell you where it's going to go or how it's going to affect you, or you. We can't tell you that. I can tell you there's going to be more water. We can do our best to mitigate it with the plantings and control certain things, but we can't give you a guarantee. It's impossible. I know you don't like hearing that, but I think everything you've said amounts to the fact that with more impervious surface and 8 large trees removed, there is going to be more water in the back of that yard.
I agree.
And how it may or may not affect you, Mr. Hickey, and I hope it doesn't. And I hope everything works. Okay, we can require that all the water stays on the property, okay, is either infiltrated up front and anything else gets directed to the back on his property. That's required by our regulations. We do not allow it to go on someone else's property. And this is what the engineers are telling us. But the effect of having more water rising up in the back area, the lowest area of his lot, in the back of number 10 Beaverbrook, or the back of number 8 Beaverbrook, I can't tell you what's going to happen. I'm sorry.
You can also control the grade of the land, the big slopes.
Yeah, a lot of that's going to disappear. Yeah, that's right. We can require it to restore it back to those grades. Okay, so 40, 45 feet out, we're at the original grades.
And even along the side where you are on my property, between the two houses where I have my driveway, like the grade, but even the retaining wall. I mean, if to the point that if it's only 6 inches, the retaining wall needs to be high enough so there's no runoff.
Right, okay.
On the side of the property.
All right, so I'm afraid if we just carry this conversation, we're going to go over the same stuff. So I think...
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to mention one thing is, right now, the rooftop runoff, half goes to the storm tank and half goes to the back. Can it be the 100% can be connected to the storm tank?
I'm going to refer that to Dan. Dan, did you hear that question?
question?
It was hard to hear. I'm sorry.
Can all the rooftop runoff go to the storm tank?
Do a bigger storm tank.
Currently, no, but we could certainly incorporate that. I'm definitely hearing the concerns of the neighbors, and I have no intention to, have anything shown in a plan that they're not comfortable with. So I think we would be open to collecting the whole roof and potentially putting a small stormwater system in the rear of the property with a bit of elevation there, if that would be amenable to all.
I don't think we're terribly interested in having another stormwater system in the back because it'll mean more grading.
I mean, essentially,
Front be bigger.
essentially you're making, if you put it in back, you're making the bowl available to hold water smaller.
The water level, therefore, like a bathtub, smaller bathtub, the water rises. Where does it go?
I think the suggestion was that the rooftop entirety be collected to a larger storm tank in front of the house, if that's possible.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, absolutely.
All
And
right.
the storm tank centered in the yard rather than up against the neighbor's property.
Okay, so please understand, we heard the neighbors' concern. We did. We understand the issue. But like I said, there's certain things we can do and certain things we can't do. We'll do the best we can. That's all I can tell you. So we're going to continue the hearing until when? 2 weeks?
Please, Mr. Chairman. Dan, 2 weeks or a month? Think we can do it in 2 weeks?
Let's aim for 2 weeks, and would it be okay with the commission if we continue the hearing if we aren't ready in two weeks.
All right, could I have a motion to continue the hearing for 12 Sarah Street, the notice of intent?
Until our next meeting of
Hey, May 9th.
May 9th. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you all. Have a good evening, everyone.
Basically, yeah.
Thank you.
You can
Thank you.
continue.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Who's beside you? Same thing, Eddie. I mean,
You're right, it's hard to find them.
you know, I understand the concerns, but
Can you make a suggestion? Change that grading in the back, so we don't have
yes,
that
please.
berm the way it is.
Yeah, he already agreed to
He
that.
agreed to it.
Okay.
Yeah, he agreed to it.
Right now, the plan shows it at the
have to
original
get you
level. And if the plan doesn't change, he's got to build it that way.
Okay.
Unless he comes in with a new plan showing
All
a
right.
different elevation.
All right, so the next we have, after that, we have Kent Cottage, a continued public hearing, notice of intent, 225 Middlesex Turnpike, FK Partners LLC, to construct a multifamily residential development, DEP file number 122-702.
I've been waiting a long time. I didn't even realize you were still, sorry, 225.
Well,
Hi, Kristen Labrie from Howard Stein Hudson.
all right, nice
And
to,
Jay Finnegan's also here with me.
good to see you. All right, so, would you like to say something before we,
I think we're good. I think if you guys have any questions or comments, we can start there. There was a site walk yesterday that I think everyone attended, or as many people.
Well, separate.
And also, I noticed Katie Enright is also online.
Yes, she is online.
hi, Katie.
How you doing, guys? Thank you.
All right, okay.
So, John and Eileen, do we have, what is the position of this effort here?
All right, so prior to the Conservation Commission site walk yesterday, Eileen and I walked the resource area delineation with the consultant from Oxbow, who's not here. So there's two flagged resource areas. There's several resource areas on site, but there's the riverfront area, in annual high water of two different streams, one unnamed tributary, which flows to the left of the site, and Vine Brook, which flows at the rear of the site. Additionally, there's bordering vegetated wetland. And additionally, beyond that, there's also an isolated vegetated wetland to the right of their in driveway. So we walked all that. We did tweak some of the wetland flags. The riverfront area flags, I had to think about, but at this point, I would say I agree with the riverfront flags. There was an area on the stream to the left, which is jurisdictional under our bylaw, but not the state until it actually exits the pond. So it goes into a pond and then comes out of the pond, and it's considered perennial there. So it's a bylaw stream. And there was an area where I thought that the median Ojai overtopped the bank. But, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal, and it was just basically kind of an inundated wetland. I didn't see any flow or anything in there, so I would say I agree with the flags for riverfront, and we did not agree totally for the bordering vegetated wetlands, and hopefully, I don't know if these guys have updated the plans.
We updated those today, and we can submit those as conditional with the updated landscape plan as well.
Okay. Did that impact at all setbacks to no build or no disturb?
The moving of A9 pushed in the no disturb a little bit, and I was able to adjust the.
My battery's dying.
Oh, my God, sorry.
So you better make yourself close.
Drama.
I was able to adjust the erosion control line and the grading to be within the wall and the erosion control line, so it makes it a little bit tighter there, but it works.
Okay, good. That's it. So we did get information on the stormwater system from the New Jersey DEP or whatever it is, their agency that reviews the stormwater. and that looked good. Basically, all the other stormwater was pretty similar to a project that you had previously designed on the site, other than that tank. So, let's see, there were a few issues that the commission raised. I know Larry had issues about paths.
Yeah, I'll talk about that when we're done.
Okay. Let's see, the delineation, the tank, we did get the phosphorus calcs. I think Eileen's okay with those.
Yep.
There were some questions about pervious pavers. And we did get a statement about the hydrology and the alteration of the hydrology. I think that came, did you get that?
Just a couple of hours ago.
Katie sent that right before the meeting.
Okay, so you
and
may
the-
not have seen that. We did receive that, though.
The pervious pavers we did look at, given the grades, the stepping grades of the units, it'd be very difficult to install those, given just the grade change. And it'd also create different maintenance between the road and the driveways, and given the proximity of the driveways to each other and the road, it would probably create more of an issue than a solution.
Okay. Is there other outstanding issues, John?
I think that's it.
Okay, the other thing that I talked about, other commissioners may have other things, but the conservation restriction is 23.5 acres. It is a large parcel of property. And I looked into, refreshed my memory on the conservation restriction, and one of the purposes that it was given and is labeled in the conservation restriction is public access trails for passive recreation, education, and nature study. And then it goes on to say that the grantor gives the grantee the right to construct, maintain, repair, replace, and invite the public to use for purposes of passive recreation, education, and nature study, and public access trails. So Katie, are you still there?
Up there.
Katie?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
All right, so here's the thing. We have talked extensively about a concept of having a walking path following Vine Brook. Most of it is relatively clear where it could possibly go, even though there's logistics to be worked out. But one of the things that is not clear is in this 23.5 acres, is there a way to go from near the intersection of Route 62 and Network Drive and wind its way through these 23 acres and end up somehow crossing where Vine Brook crossing the old Middlesex Turnpike? Or maybe that's not where it should go, I'm not sure. But the point is that I would love to take the opportunity to at least ask. Nordblum is the current owner, is that correct, Katie?
That's correct.
So I'd love to take the opportunity to ask, is it possible so that we could get a concept that we could get just a concept line of where it would be best for a path to run through that area? Not asking for construction of a path, not asking for a design of the path, asking for somebody to take a look and help us decide how that 23.5 acres could be navigated with a walking path. No, maybe it can't. So my question is, could you act as the intermediary and talk to Nordblum and ask if there's anything they could do to help flush that out for us at all?
I can, yeah, that specific ask, I can certainly communicate that forward. I myself have not walked the entire 21 acres of the property. So I could not say myself, but I could certainly communicate that ask.
I mean, they might be willing to pay for someone at your firm or your time to do enough of a walk to kind of help us out to flush this out a little bit more, maybe? maybe?
Maybe, I don't think as part of this, obviously, as this specific project or this specific applicant, but
It's a kind of a
I'm
special
sure that
ask.
there's,
It's kind of a
right, I'm
special
sure that
ask.
there's some time between when the property will change hands that I could at least, I would be happy to communicate it to Nordblom.
But I appreciate it. Anything you can do to at least facilitate it would be very appreciative.
By the commission.
Sure.
Okay? Let us know how it goes, please.
Okay.
Thanks. Any comments from anyone else? Anything else left?
Just that I had discussed the previous plan of heating all these 9 units with gas and requested that them look into perhaps using electric, and they have said yes, and have come up with a plan to not even have a gas line on the property, so.
Like heat pumps?
Heat pumps for heating and electric stoves.
Really?
Yep, we're gonna do the whole place.
Wow.
So I'm very pleased with that, and
Very good.
I wish more developers would keep that in mind when they're building. You know, I always worry that, you know, the standard in New England is a gas furnace, a gas stove, and nobody wants to put in oil burners anymore. But I just think in 20 years, there's going to be a real push to get rid of that stuff. You know, Massachusetts has already stated a goal of removing gas from 1 million existing houses. You know, so at some point, there's going to be pressure on things that are built today. Maybe it'll be 15, 20 years, but they're going to be saying, try to get rid of the gas. So do that now, and this is a great example of somebody paying attention to that and following through with it, and I appreciate that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so now what's the status? We don't have a draft decision, do we? Oh, we do?
Yep.
Okay, so I guess we can review it.
And apparently, the hearing with the planning board went well, and they're not anticipating any changes before the planning board, so
Yeah, I got it.
there's no reason not to close tonight.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. I guess we'll go through it. Have these folks seen a copy of it?
Yes, we have.
Yes, I just didn't have it in my other folder. Let me just open it up and share. All right. Hopefully it's going to open up there now. Okay. Oh, now I'm writing it down. So the project description is, as we know, renovation of the existing historic portion of Kent Cottage into 2 residential units and then construction of 7 additional townhome units. Most other features would be removed. Stormwater would drain to 2 catch basins and then to an ore tank that would fully infiltrate 2-year storm events and would reduce flow rates and volumes for all other storm events. The work would be within riverfront area to a locally regulated intermittent stream, mostly outer riverfront, and 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands. Most of the 21-acre parcel is protected by a conservation restriction, and all of the work proposed in this project is outside the restriction. Then we went through the filing history and the plan references, which will have to be tweaked based on the fact that you're going to be providing at least some new ones.
So, well, we're going to we have to revise all the whole plan set because of that.
So it'll just be probably just be the dates that get changed.
Yeah, we'll add a revision date.
Okay.
So the original date will be good.
So as this, but with dated blah, 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 last revised on,
yes,
whatever, next week. Again, proposed work would be within riverfront to Vinebrook and locally regulated stream. The closest point of a proposed new building, Unit 4, was approximately 150 feet from the bank of the stream, and Unit 2 would be around 60 feet from the BVW. The shared parking lot would be about 30 feet from BVW. Work occurring within or in close proximity to resource areas can create adverse impact to those areas.
We may have to update that one distance from Unit 4 with the adjusted BVW line.
Well, let me just highlight it then.
Yeah, and I can give you that new distance.
Okay, so it'll be approximately some other amount, probably a little tiny bit less, like...
I think it moved in 5 feet, 3 inches.
So something like 145 feet instead.
Yeah.
And then this here was highlighted because we were talking yesterday, Katie was saying that you guys are marking trees, and I think it was going to be 20 in the end. Is that correct?
Yes, so there's 4 on the border that we're going to try to protect, but we're agreeing to replace the trees
And they will all be replaced one for one?
One for one, and that's including those 4 trees. It was 16 before.
Right.
So it's going up to 20. We're going to try to protect those trees. If they end up coming down, we'll replace them. If not, it won't.
And then about 131 square feet of impervious cover will be added. We go on to explain about some more about the riverfront, 10% or 5,000 square feet. So this proposal is well within the limitations. Explain some more about the stormwater management again, about the wrapped ore tank and the catch basins and contact water quality unit, and go through the standards. It meets everything that is required. It is required to meet, and in some cases it's just not applicable. Like it's not a redevelopment project. It's not a LUPL. It also meets the Burlington Stormwater Bylaw standards of 90% TSS removal and total phosphorus removal of 60%. Then is there a bond that we talked about? Proposing a bond of 20,000. Okay, let me go on to the order. Didn't have them in my folder. All right. Again, we're listing all of the same plans which will be tweaked within new revision date when we get those plans, and most of these are quite standard, and they did look at them earlier. So again, as before, let's just zoom through a few of them. It permits work within the 100-foot buffer to BVW and within the riverfront area, but locally regulated.
One item, the word stream is not complete. They have locally regulated stream.
Yes, there is a, sorry.
Mine says STREA.
And,
The word
well,
stream is just not
strangely, the
complete.
version you got doesn't have John's edit, because John did.
Okay, John's already fixed that.
John
We had
fixed
me,
it to say stream. So you might see more of John's edits in here in that case.
Okay.
So the pre-construction conditions are pretty standard. They're requiring you to install your erosion control, install your DEP sign. Let us know when you're ready to have us visit and inspect all of those. Pay your bond and record the order. This explains the erosion controls as shown on the reference plan. They should be installed by hand. And all disturbed areas should be stabilized as soon as possible. Materials shall not be stockpiled on the site within 50 feet of the wetlands or stream. Keep the roadways clear, no dewatering unless we have an approved plan. If and when you produce a SWIP, please give us a copy. And we reserve the right to require additional erosion controls. No additional grading beyond what's shown in the approved plan shall be permitted unless you go through us first. Pollution control conditions are just standard ones about not allowing things on site that are going to pollute, or not allowing pollution, and not allowing anything to get dumped into wetlands or stream. And landscaping materials should not be dumped in the streams or wetlands, and that shall be noted in perpetuity. And the rest are things about spilling oil, and basically don't do it. Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides shall not be used within 100 feet of the wetlands, and that shall be a condition in perpetuity. And then we're requiring weekly inspection reports during the construction, and that the installation or construction of the CDS and the ore tank shall be witnessed or certified by a registered PE. And again, this describes the the stormwater management specifically, and that the applicant shall adhere to the operations and maintenance plan. And we are requiring that the O&M plan be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And here was the point that was actually a bit confusing again, because when I counted the number of plants in the NOI, it didn't come to 20, but we're definitely saying it's 20.
Yes.
So let's just fix that, and okay.
We can double count it, and I'll give you the final.
Well, that was probably before it was all tweaked anyway.
Yeah.
And about 120 native shrubs. They will be planted across the property, and those planted areas shall not be returned to impervious surface. They'll be monitored for 2 full growing seasons, and ones that fail to thrive shall be replaced. No invasive plants shall be used on the site, and that's a condition that's noted in perpetuity. And the rest is just the explanation of how you go about filing for your certificate of occupancy and compliance. Two separate things.
Okay. Any questions by the commission on it?
I just have, I don't remember if this applies or not, but I think at one point we might have had something like it might have been like a homeowner, like they have to be notified of the conservation restriction, like when the property changes hands, or is that something else? I just was wondering if like we had something like the builder sort of would know that there's a conservation restriction, but then if the property changes hands, like to the resident, they may not know, or is that?
Something on though, just to say.
With the certificate,
Not sure what.
I forget what it was.
That subsequent owners shall be notified of the existence of the CR, something like that, basically. Is that what
Existence
you're
can be
saying?
disclosed at a sale. If it were to be sold, it could be disclosed, it'd have to be disclosed.
Restriction should be in the deeds, right?
On a deed or something?
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It should be.
It's on the deed,
It's on the deed.
Right, so.
but we can put it in there to
seller
say,
would-
because that would count as disclosure.
Disclosed at sale.
Yeah.
That's okay.
It'd be on the deed, so it would automatically be disclosed, but that's fine
Exactly.
putting the language
Yeah,
in.
Should,
I think,
but just-
yeah, before we might have had like someone who moved into the house, I didn't know. Like,
Okay, is there anything else?
Okay, let me just put that there, CR.
All right, could I have a motion to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-702?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Could I have a motion to approve the findings as discussed for our DEP file number 122-702 under Burlington Bylaw Article 14?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Same vote. Could I have a motion to approve the order of conditions for DEP file number 122-702 under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 and the State Wetlands Protection Act?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote, 600. Could I have a motion to require a performance guarantee posted in the amount of, what was it?
$20,000.
$20,000 requested under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-702.
So moved.
Discussion on it? All in favor? Same vote. You're all set.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. Good night.
Good night, have a good night. All right, so next we have 101 Middlesex Turnpike, that was continued, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you should actually vote on it, though.
Okay, could I have a motion to continue 101 Middlesex Turnpike, notice of intent, the Brixmore property for raising the parking lot elevation, DEP number 122-700, continue it to our meeting of May 9th. Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Okay, next, planning board comments.
Well, we'll certainly let the planning board know about both 101 Middlesex and 225 Middlesex.
Okay. And next we have subcommittee and staff reports.
I can give you one staff report. I actually had a conversation with the town administrator about trash, because this wasn't the first complaint we've had about trash, and he actually said that until COVID, the town actually utilized the Middlesex County House of Correction crews to help pick up trash, and because of COVID, that program was suspended, but I think he's going to look into maybe doing that again. We did have a company that was looking for projects to volunteer for Earth Day, and I thought we didn't have anything in conservation land, and I tried to coordinate it with either recreation or highway, and somehow the coordination just fell through. Highway gave me a list of places they wanted cleaned, and I thought they were going to coordinate it with the company, and they didn't. They thought they were just giving me a list, so that didn't happen. I've contacted the company again to see if they, it's still Earth Month for another week or so. They haven't gotten back to me. They're probably disappointed that their offer was not taken up. But anyway, I did talk to Paul Sagarino, and he is going to investigate the Middlesex correction.
Okay, would you guys make a note to get back to us so we can announce it? Okay. All right. Okay, let's see, we got other business. Anyone have other business? I have one thing. You circulate, John, you circulated the Woburn stream cleaning thing that DEP didn't seem to like?
Correct.
Could you explain the difference between what Woburn is proposing for stream cleaning versus what we do?
Okay, so the actual physical stuff that they're proposing to do is actually less than what we do. They're not proposing to remove any sediment except within, I think it was maybe 15 feet of the culvert outfall, but they weren't proposing to do any dredging or any vectoring. They were beyond like 15 feet from an outfall. But they were going in and cutting vegetation, potentially crossing wetlands with the equipment to cut vegetation. Among DEP's biggest problems were they aren't doing a butter notification. They didn't flag resource areas and identified the amount of alteration of resource areas, whether it be bank or BVW or land underwater. They didn't. So their notice of intent didn't quantify any of that. It was just too open-ended. DEP doesn't like these open-ended, blanket permits for a town to do something town-wide. So that's pretty similar to what we do. We do a town-wide, we have a town-wide order of conditions to go and do streams. They give us a list at the beginning of the season, but we don't flag the resource areas. We don't notify the abutters. They may do some, they may use reverse 911 to let abutters know. Which doesn't really meet the regulations, which
But the
require
difference between what they're proposing, what we're proposing is, the functional difference is we're removing sediment and they're not, is that?
So that's one of the things that we do that they weren't even doing.
That's my point.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
It is a big difference. I mean, if they were proposing to do sediment on top of what they're doing, DEP's comments probably would have been even more negative than they were, and they were pretty negative. So I get the feeling, despite the fact that 15 or 20 years ago, DEP seemed to think that what Burlington was doing was a model for other communities, I think their attitude has changed on that now, and they, if a notice of intent were filed today in Burlington for our stream cleaning program, DEP would, and you approved it, DEP would probably supersede it.
Really?
How long is ours valid for? When would we have to apply again? Does it expire?
I think you just issued an extension last year.
Just recent, no, January, just recent.
January.
I think so.
And how long is that good for?
3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
So is it more detailed work would have to be done to support the activity we're doing? Is that what would have to happen?
A lot more detailed work, like flagging all the resource areas.
Flagging and
notifying
notification
abutters.
and all that stuff.
But even then, I mean, if you read their comments, they do not want like woody debris pulled out of streams, except for, trash. They don't mind trash being pulled out, but they don't want branches and whatnot pulled out of streams.
Even if it's blocking the flow?
That's natural, right?
Yeah.
Since what you told me with the beaver or the turtles.
Yeah, so since I've been here, we've really, when I first came here, the stream cleaning program used to go down streams and cut all the overhanging branches that were going into streams. Like there's all these, silky dogwoods that the branches were all in the streams, and they'd just go through and clear it all out, pull everything out, and would really cut back on it. We don't do that anymore. We just pull out wood, dead stuff, leave the live vegetation alone. But even that, I think, is probably more than what DEP would approve.
Of course, it's a problem if they won't removal of branches blocking flow and it's flooding other people's property. That's not good.
No, the neighbors aren't going to like this at all.
No.
They want you to come in and dredge the whole thing.
Right.
Right.
But they think that's best.
All right, thank you for that summary.
Yep.
Okay, and let's see. All right. And I think we'll handle potential comments offline for the new DEP regulations, the wetlands regulations.
Yeah, just let me know. So the comment deadline is Tuesday or Wednesday, it's the 30th, whatever that is, I think that's Wednesday maybe. So yeah, if you're good with it, read through it, let me know, and I can just send it on behalf of the
I
Conservation.
thought some of the comments were very involved. It was hard to absorb.
The people are doing so much work. There's the regulations, it's a ton of work. There's a new stormwater handbook. There's a lot of information.
800 pages.
Yeah, there's a lot of people working really hard going through it. I've gone through a little of it, but.
I tried reading just the letter, and some of it I didn't totally understand. All right, could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
John,
Good night.
South Border.